Hey everybody, Royal Lines UK, Matthew Turner here alongside Ashley Soden, just waiting on Mr. Fitzpatrick to join us. How you doing, Ash?
I'm doing good, doing good. Just it's been a fun week looking at the defensive tackles, especially since we knew we were talking about it. There's so many ones on here that I really do like for us, and it's a position we need. As much as we've obviously signed Ray Lopez, we've still got Aleem and CJ Reader. We've still got hopes of Roderick Martin. We obviously re-signed Levi. Pascal can slide in there if we need him to. It's somewhere that we just need an extra body, especially if Aleem and Wingo aren't back. So
It feels like
give me
there's
all the
room for
defensive
one more,
tackles.
doesn't it? It feels like
Yeah,
there's definitely room for
exactly.
one more. And if it was a penetrating three tech or it was a nose, I'm not sure that it matters. Like either
Yeah,
one, there would seem to be the room to have that player. So yes, a well worthwhile endeavour. We've got 9 players that we have looked at in detail, and then we're going to talk about the rest of the class generally. But we're just waiting on Ant to get in the building. Hope everyone's doing well. Here he is. Hello, sir.
Hey, yo.
You all right?
Yeah, you.
Oh, I'm trying to shake off this damn cold. Or not cold, I've shaken off the cold, but I've still got a horrible cough sometimes. So if my voice starts going, I can only apologise. And I did 3 interviews at work today for someone coming in for new roles. So I've never done them before, or never led them before. So that was fun. Hence me being late today. Apologies. Ooh. Right, everybody, you know what to do. If you have questions, let me know, and I'll get it in our prep docs so we know to wheel back to it. We have 2 more position groups to do, I think, and so I had penciled in offensive line for next week. Are you happy with that? Is that or quarterbacks?
Yeah, that's fine.
Awesome. Big Aries says, I get the feeling I'm shaking off a day of work. Yeah, I appreciate that sentiment very much. We've gone from nothing to everything on the news today. I don't have a name for the show as well. Help. Something about defensive tackles and not Ash's name.
that's why I put it. That's why I took it. I was just like, you know what? It ain't gonna be the name of the show, so I might as well put it as my team name.
Um, one of the names of the people we're looking at. It could do something church related. Oh, master grant that I may never seek. Which hymn is that? Give me a channel of your peace, isn't it? Oh my god. Going back to my blooming C of E school days. Is it totally flown over your guys' heads, that?
Yeah.
I'm calling it that anyway.
Fair.
It might play to a more religious audience, as the Americans will, of course, generally be compared to us on this side of the pond.
True.
Or Carlton's is maybe better, just as Matt's got DTs. Don't make me laugh, you bastard. Oh, excuse me. Big Area says DT state of mind.
Mm.
I don't know. It's not the bigger part of the show, is it? Anything we need to address before we go for it?
I don't know of.
Okie dokie. I will start then.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to another edition of the Royal Lines UK podcast, episode 331, O Master Grant That I May Understand. My name's Matthew Turner, alongside Anthony Fitzpatrick and Ashley Soden. How you doing, boys?
Doing good, doing good. Just keeping an eye on the England game at the corner of my eye, because finally we've got a good manager. Feels like a couple of years ago when a certain other team had a manager who was not as good, and suddenly a new guy comes in with new ideas, and everything sparks to life.
Yeah, doing good. Doing good.
Excellent. We are having a stacked show for you today. We are back looking at another class in this 2025 NFL draft cycle. We're looking at the defensive tackles, and whilst the Lions seem to have restocked a little bit in that position, it feels like there's room for at least one more guy, and so we are looking at the length and breadth of this class to see if there's someone that we can fit in at some point. I know that on a lot of people's boards and wants and needs, it features quite highly, alongside trying to help out DJ Reader and Aleem McNeil, who of course is going to be injured come the start of the season. And Pascal can obviously slip inside, and we've got Roy Lopez, who's been has been signed, but there's room for one more. We are going to get to those players, but first we have a little bit of news and, of course, the preamble. So please do come and join our Discord channel. It's going to be a great place to be all the way through the draft, which, of course, is only now a month away. Can you believe it? Link is in the chat right now. We'd love to see you there. College Football Podcast and Wednesday, I suspect. What are you going to be talking about?
Yeah, so we're doing our Are We Smarter Than a Mock Draft Simulator this week. So for those who remember, we did it last year. We've picked out 30 random numbers in the draft cycle, done a mock draft simulator with no human influence on it. It picks out 30 players, 30 teams that the mock draft simulator sends them to, and me and Rye have to try and guess more correct than the simulator. And we beat it last year, so we're hoping to keep that record intact. But it's good fun. We're doing one for the Discord as well this year, so if people want to try their hand at it, then go for it. It's good fun.
Yep, come and join us then, but you'll have to be quick, because if that's on Wednesday, you've only got a couple of days as of the time of recording to get that done. Link in the audio description of the podcast as well if you're listening on the audio pod. Please do like this episode, sub to the podcast, and do go and support Lions Nation Unite as well. Harmon Moore's project being the best in Lions content creators together. With Twitch affiliated, YouTube monetized. There's a tip jar down below in the YouTube description. If you're enjoying what you're listening to and want to show some love, that'd be fantastic. But it's just great to have you with us. Let's get to the news. And there has been some movement in free agency by the Lions, including 2 veterans coming in the defensive backs position, boys, with nickelback Avonte Maddox signing after being with the Eagles for 7 years, who grew up in Detroit, has some experience at safety, actually came into the league as a outside cornerback, but didn't make the grade in that position. And someone has been calling for a long, long time is in Rock Yassin, has signed a 1-year deal. It's his 5th team in as many years, but a knee injury 2 years ago has derailed his career. But he was one of the best man cover cornerbacks per PFF when he was healthy prior to that, as well as other re-signings in Khalil Dorsey, Al-Qadim Mohammed, Pat O'Connor, and Shane Zylstra, all coming back to the Lions. We've also got more details on Tim Patrick's deal. It was reported as 1 year 4. It's actually 1 year 2.5, fully guaranteed, with 1.5 presumably available in incentives. Those are all the re-signings and signings, boys. And I mean, me and Ash talked about it just off the air when before we started, so I'm going to come to you, Ant. But it really feels like the Lions season potentially was slightly derailed with injuries, especially in the defense, and that they are really stocking up with their kind of backups, with veteran players, especially kind of people who are regarded as veteran leaders.
Yeah, most importantly, the veterans who've played a lot of ball and, at the first team level as well. So you've got a good amount of depth in your room now, and it takes the pressure off your younger guys as well, your rookies, especially if you get another one this year potentially. You've got a nice little mix where you're not having to just throw the rookies into starting roles all the time, play them all the time. You've got these guys in, and if someone goes down, these guys who've had pedigree before, like say Yassin has played at a good level before. Avonte Maddox has just won a Super Bowl. So this is the kind of depth you want to build. They're not the flashy moves, they're not the big moves, but we make our big moves in the draft. We get our big players in the draft. We need to fill this roster out. And, it means, thankfully, guys like, Mosley are not coming back. These are guys who have been healthy. and who are hopefully going to be able to contribute to us. That's what we needed to do with this roster. We needed to cut off some of the dead wood in certain positions, and this signals the start of that, which is a good thing for us. So I like it. I'm surprised it was two, but again, you need the depth, you need guys in there. It still doesn't rule you out getting another corner if you want to. We've got a lot of flexibility in positions there as well. So yeah, good moves from Brad, and they'll be inoffensive to the cap going forward as well. Just what we need for right here, right now. So yeah, I'm behind it.
And Ash, you are potentially one of the bigger Rock Sin fans in maybe the world.
Probably, yeah. Like, I have wanted this guy since he left Indy, who were the team that drafted him, went to Baltimore, went to the Raiders, had that knee injury. Didn't things went downhill. Went to Baltimore to try to be a reclamation project. San Francisco last year, played a bit of special teams against us, but not much else outside of that. It came to playing us. It's a reclamation project. It's the Brad special. He almost seems to do this, and it's got about 50% hit rate. Charles Harris is like the sort of good end of that. Tim Pratchett last year, and then obviously you got the bad end of Mosley. To be determined on Davenport. It's one of them where if we can get him back to his best, there's the first guy up off the bench outside corner potentially, and he's that good to come in and play pretty well. I know prior to Detroit, we're discussing it yesterday and saying they see him as a bit of a downgrade on Vildor. Floor-wise, 100%, but in terms of the upside, Yassin's is really up there. Like, he's a prototypical size. He comes in as the biggest corner in our room now. He's taller than Arnold, he's taller than Meek, he's taller than Aeneas, taller than pretty much everyone else that we got there, which we kind of need because everyone was under 6 foot. Obviously, the joke was the Lions are cornering the market on 5'9" corners, especially with the Maddox signing. So, yeah, I was happy as soon as it posted into Discord. I was like, hell yeah, I predicted it. Finally, I've got one right. And then for Maddox, it's partially Dorsey back up. So, obviously, Khalil Dorsey had that horrific injury against the Bills, the sort of double leg. I think it was a broken leg and ankle. But when he's healthy, he's a starting gunner. He was good backup at cornerback. That's what Maddox could offer us in the short term, at least, because he played special teams a lot for Philly last year, especially when DeJourn took his role as the starting nickel corner coming out of their week 5 bye. But he's also someone that helps a bit of veteran experience for the younger corners we've got in the room, because outside of, Maddox and Yassin, pretty much everyone else hasn't really played much. Meek's probably considered the veteran. So having someone who both Quinyon Mitchell, who we loved in last year's draft, and then Cooper DeJourn have both credited as one of the veterans that's really helped them bed into the NFL and, make them into what they were, where DeJourn gets a pick 6 in the Super Bowl. Quinyon's one of the best rookie corners in the league. He even got the pass breakup on the 4th down in the Super Bowl. This is a guy who makes plays in key times. And yeah, he has that positional versatility where he has played outside corner before. He plays in the nickel, he's played free safety, he's played strong safety. Just gives a bit of veteran depth in that secondary room. And what this doesn't mean, and I'm speaking you here, PFF, it doesn't mean we're trading Amik Robertson. Get that shit out your mouths.
Many thanks to Dan Pask for subscribing at Tier 1 for his counted 36th month. That's exceptional, Dan. Thank you very much. Says, hey guys, happy birthday to me. Of course, 3 years that it is. Says, happy birthday to me. Hope you're well. Go Lions. And just coming in now, Danny Mack subscribing at Tier 1 for his 17th month. Cheers, Danny. Appreciate you. And Brent DeWitt, a $2 super chat, says, One Pride Worldwide, Shep building a hybrid wide 9, question mark. I'm not sure what that is in relation to.
Defensive scheme.
Oh, I see. I see. Right, there we go. Anyway, thank you, everyone. I appreciate all of that very, very much. Also, some other Lions news. There was a league meeting that was held in the last week. The Lions have proposed 3 new rules. No one on whether they were accepted, I don't think.
They will be voted on this week at the owners' meeting. That's why next week Jeremy will have his weird background because he'll be in Florida again.
Thank you very much. So the rules that they proposed is to seed teams in their conference based on regular season records, which means that division winners will not have automatic home field advantage in the playoffs, at least for game 1, the wild card. Proposed to eliminate automatic first downs for penalties such as defensive holding and illegal contact. And also proposed being allowed to put players on IR prior to cut downs and not have that count against your 90-man roster before cut downs. So if you currently want to hang on to someone, if you put them on IR, it still counts as a roster spot against you. The proposition is to not have that. Any thoughts, boys, on all those? I mean, the defensive holding and illegal contact one is something that people have been calling for years. But interesting that they also proposed the first one about the seeding people by regular season record. It's something which was talked about a lot, of course, last season when ourselves and Minnesota both had almost NSE leading records, but one of us was inevitably going to be the 5 seed. It ended up not being us, but it would have benefited both teams to have this rule in place. We might have been seeds 1 and 2. I think we would have ended up 1 and 3 in the end, but still.
Yeah. So I know that one's definitely seen as a benevolent move. It's kind of like a couple of years ago where we were the one that proposed the emergency third QB rule after what happened to San Francisco in their playoff game, where they had to play the second half with CMC under center in the Wildcat QB because Purdy and Josh Johnson both got injured, which was a bit of a freak circumstance. Obviously, that's a rare circumstance. It's the same here where, it's very, very rare that we'll have that situation ever again, but it's kind of that, well, it's happened now, so we've seen this weakness in the rules, let's change them, so if it does happen again in the future, it can be prevented, because, it was a bit unfair for the Vikings, as much as we like to rag on them, the fact that because they lost that game, they had to go all the way to LA and play against them. So I'm kind of for it. I'm definitely for, obviously, the eliminating automatic first downs. I know some places like to report that we're only doing it to help ourselves, but when it's something that a load of defenders have been calling for, it should happen because, it's bullshit. On a third and 15, what's a 5-yard penalty is also an automatic first down. Doesn't quite add up. Don't expect it to pass, though, because obviously the league favours offense. And then the last one is, again, just a really weird rule that we nearly butted our heads against last year, this whole 90-man roster thing. Like, we got very, very close to it, point to like 88, 89, but we managed to skirt around it with the old injury settlements. But that's the thing. That's why we're doing it, because the player doesn't have to accept the settlement. So let's say, well, I'm going to use Connor Galvin as an example, but obviously he suffered his MCL injury in preseason and he sat on IR all season. We obviously could offer him an injury settlement to sort of get off and sort of pay him off to basically leave so we don't hit that rule, but he doesn't have to accept it. This kind of prevents that happening now. So, if it happens again, let's say we take a UDFA tackle and he gets hurt and he's out for the season, we then don't have to worry about giving him an injury settlement down the line if we start having a spate of injuries. It kind of circumvents that. So all three are kind of, one's something we've been calling for years, the other two are just weird rules that we've butted our heads against this season as a wide, in terms of the NFL, need changing, but don't really expect any of them to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with the seedings thing. Too many ass teams are getting high-level rankings just because of their division that they're playing in. You think back to the NFC East a few years ago, like they didn't really deserve a playoff spot. I think it was 22 or 21, wherever it was. The NFC South has been garbage for years, and these guys getting 4 seeds. It just, the playoffs have been awful, like the last few years. Like, especially wildcard weekend has been atrocious, and there's been a reason for that because too many bad teams have been seeded high, and then it's just created all these contests which have just been no good, no competition to them, and like, so hopefully this shakes it up a bit, and you're getting better games as you go along, and not just a load of bad teams beating up on one another, and just easy schedules, all that stuff. So I agree. The seedings should definitely work that way, and the rule changes for the defensive holding that needs to come into effect. Everyone's belly aching, going, well, defensive coordinators are going to teach their players to cheat. What do you think the offense do right now? Like, how many times have we called out flops from wide receivers and receivers deliberately going looking for contact? It's third down and long. Your offense, you telling me your offensive coordinator is not going to every receiver out there, go look for some contact, go put your center to the ground. Let's try and get our way out of it this way. Like, you're telling me they're not doing that? So you're kind of really hypocritical in that sense. Like, it's going to work both ways, but the penalties are just too harsh for what is getting called. It's got to be changed. And, just you're going to have to rely on your officials to be good at their job and to weed out any potential cheating in there and to punish that as well. But As I said, it's an offensively minded league. It's just completely favored towards that, and then somewhere it's got to change. So I don't care whether it benefits us now. In 5 years, this rule might not benefit us. We might not be such a man-heavy team. We might be on the back end of this where it's against us. These rules don't just change for a year and then change back when they decide we want to change. These go change permanently. So all this about it being in our interest now, yeah, but it may not be in future. Especially we've got new DC and now who knows what's going to happen. It may not even help us next year. So yeah, these are simple things that should be brought in, but probably won't be.
Yeah, they're simple propositions which may benefit us now, but actually very clearly are just for the good of the game. Whether they accept it or not, I don't think people can question our motivation too highly and really be credible, to be frank. But I agree with you, I don't see any of them being adopted. We shall see, and hopefully we'll be pleasantly surprised. Anyway, let's get on with the review of this defensive tackle class. Now, I will just say up front, we have not had a look at a couple of guys at the top in big detail, but I will presume that quite a few of the guys will have watched them already, so we'll cover them at the end of the show. I'm going to turn over to Ant to talk about his first guy in a minute, but just to go down the list of 9 that we have for this show, I have CJ West, Derrick, Harmon, and TJ Sanders. Ant has Walter Nolen, Cam Horsley, and Kenneth Grant. And Ash has Aeneas Peebles, Darius Alexander, and Zeek Biggers. If you've not heard of that last one, that's fine. Anyway, I'm turning it over to Ant for a choice of player for you, sir.
This is weird for me because usually when I do these, I do day 3 guys that no one's ever heard of. This is the one week where I've chosen some guys at the top, but rightfully so. I absolutely love scouting DTs, and I'm going to start off with one of my favorite guys in this whole thing. So I'm going to start with Walter Nolen, the big man himself, and man, I get excited watching this guy play. So he's 6'3", 305 pounds. He is the defensive tackle from the Ole Miss Rebels. He spent 3 years in college. First 2 years, he went to TAMU, Texas A&M. He was one of those superstar 5-star prospects that came out of high school. Like, he was an elite 5-star guy. So yeah, first 2 years at Texas A&M, transferred to Ole Miss this year on one of the most feared D-lines in the country. Literally all 4 of them are going to get drafted this season. 1,241 snaps for him in college altogether, 82 at the nose, 783 at interior D tackle. Then you've got 206 at 5 tech. You've got 162 at the edge in terms of his stats. 67 quarterback pressures for him, 14 sacks, 7 hits, 46 hurries, 102 tackles, a missed tackle rate of 4.7%. He's missed 2 tackles in the last 2 years, 72 run stops, 3 batted passes, forced fumble, and he just did about everything this year. Consensus All-American, 20, All-America first team. He was All-SEC first team, USA Today All-SEC. He was a finalist for the Outland Trophy for best interior lineman in the nation on both sides of the ball, although he didn't win it. Came very high up in the voting, and quite frankly, he said a few weeks ago that he likes to think that he's potentially going to be the next Aaron Donald coming into this league, and it's cocky, it's a very big boast, but man, he lives up to it. So I've taken a little look at some of his tape, and I watched him play against LSU this year, bearing in mind they've got a top 5 offensive tackle who's going to be in this draft potentially, a right tackle who's going to get drafted, a very good interior, and he had an absolute field day against them. 7 pressures on the day, 2 quarterback hits, 5 hurries. He had 3 tackles, 2 run stops, but it's where he hits you and how he hits you. He plays all over the line. He played all over the line in this game. He's not done it too much in the past, but he's one of the most relentless defensive tackles I've ever seen in my life. Every single play he is just playing at 200%, and the LSU offensive line couldn't deal with him. They double teamed him, they triple teamed him, they had the running back coming up to put hits on him, they had tight ends chipping him off the edge. And again, you've got 4 draft picks on there. Princely Malen's going to be a high draft pick. Javon Ivy's going to be a high draft pick. JJ Pegues is probably going to be a day 2 draft pick. They centered in on him and him alone, trying to stop him. So some of the plays I've noted down here. There's a play where he's at nose tackle. So this just goes to show how he plays all over the line. He's at the nose. Get off is super quick. It's an explosive first step, but he has this quick swipe on the center. He's on his right shoulder. He swipes across to the left-hand side, just completely and utterly knocks him out the way. The running back comes up to him on pass protection, hits him flush. Nolen literally tosses him aside like he's a cardboard figurine. The center gets back on top of him. He then just bends under him, goes around him, takes down Garrett Nussmeier, who has to hurry to get the pass away. But he beats the center twice. He beats the chipping block from the running back, and the left guard tries to get in on him too. They just cannot stop him from that interior position. The next play, he's on the edge. And he's up against Will Campbell, who again is going to be one of the highest picked tackles in this draft, maybe the highest. And they come together on the line scrimmage, so it's a run play. It looks like Will Campbell's got this big hit on him and is off balance, but Nolen just swipes his way out of it. He gets underneath Campbell on the inside. He holds him off with one arm. He's basically holding him in the air, rotates his way out of the block, comes out of it, spears the running back for a stop who's been held up. It's the strength he possesses is absolutely phenomenal. This is a guy who is a RAS warrior. You know, he's everything you need to be. This is why he was a high 5-star prospect coming out of school. But to just body one of the best left tackles in college football like that is extremely impressive. The next play I've got down here, he's at the 4-eye this time, so he's just on the inside of the tackle's shoulder. So again, he has a little swipe, comes up against the right guard, just a little swipe to get on his inside. Then he straight up bull rushes between the center and the right guard. He pushes them both back on his own, bisects the gap between them, hits the quarterback, who again has to hurry to get the ball out of his system because he can't believe he's on him so quick. But he just bulldozes 2 guys on his own like they're just not there whatsoever. Next play, he's at the 5 tech. He drops inside. He bull rushes the center so hard. There's no gap between him and the left guard. After he hits him with the bull rush and knocks him back, a gap appears, and again, he bisects the 2 of them. He's got one of them in each hand, forces his way through. This time it's an RPO that's getting done, and the quarterback who's looking to throw it suddenly hurriedly looks towards his running back and just sort of hands it to him. It's like, there, take it. Do what you want with it. He gets about 2 yards and then he gets dropped. Like, just the interior pressure he brings is insane. The next one I've got, he's at the 5 tech, and this is probably his one of the most impressive reps I saw here. So again, he's lined up against Will Campbell. Again, who's going top 5 in the draft. He bull rushes him, knocks him off balance. Will Campbell, he looks like he's hurdling. His leg gets knocked so high in the air. He uses a swim move to get on the inside, to get to the quarterback. He runs into 2 other offensive linemen, so he hits this traffic in the middle. So all he does, he spins right out of Will Campbell's grip that he has, like completely beats him on the outside after beating him on the inside. Nussmeier's about 4 yards back trying to get rid of the ball, and he Superman dives basically all the way across to him, nearly 5 yards, takes him down by the ankles. And again, Nussmeier throws up this really dicky ball into the end zone where it nearly gets picked off into double coverage because he just doesn't have time to throw against the press. Then you've got him at the 3 tech, another relentless play from him. So, you get this little shimmy and a swipe to get inside the right guard again. He takes the center head on. He's getting double teamed by the center and the right guard. Again, forces them back and just breaks his way through the middle of them. Again, Nussmeier has no idea he's coming. And all of a sudden, he's right on top of him. He throws up this moon ball in the air, which gets picked off by, I think it's Trey Amos. On the stat sheet, that goes down as a pick. But it's all down to Nolen and his ability to collapse the pocket and to get Nussmeier hurried. He has him shaken in this game. And then the most impressive one of all at the end. He's playing at the 2i, triple teamed by the centre, the right guard, and the right tackle. So the centre and the right tackle come in and chip him while the right guard's trying to block him. He throws off the right guard like he's absolutely nothing. The running back's trying to get through that gap, thinking there's going to be no one there. And all of a sudden, Nolen's round his ankles, dragging him to the ground for a tackle for loss. I mean, it's just again and again and again, all these plays, they double team him, they triple team him. Even if they do keep him quiet, they're putting that much resource into trying to stop him that they can't. All these other guys just get one-on-one looks, and they struggled in this. They did eventually win in overtime because Ole Miss's offense was absolutely trash. But if you want to know what Walter Nolen's about, he's just incessantly relentless. He has got great technique. He's got super strength. He is incredibly fast for someone, again, of his build. And it's that explosion. It's the technique. It's the ability to play all over the line. I've shown you reps there, anywhere from the edge to the nose tackle, where he's having success against these guys. And really, the only sort of knock on him is he plays a little too high sometimes, been at 6'3". But I don't understand the slide towards the end of the first round here. I know he's not had a collegiate career which, reflects the super high 5-star status. He took his time to get going at TAMU, but we've seen a lot of their prospects, especially on the D-line, who struggled to develop. But 13 of his 14 sacks have came in the last 2 years. Like, he's gotten the pass rushing down to an art form now, and when it comes to the run defense, it's really good. The only thing I would say is with the sheer aggression and speed that he plays at, sometimes you just got to raise it in a little bit, because he'll just throw himself into a hornet's nest while the ball maybe goes past him in another direction. But they're few and far between, these examples. It's just I'm sat there watching him, and I'm just going, wow, 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 wow. And I've liked him for a while, but like really sitting down and watching his tape, for someone like us, the ability to collapse the pocket and just, I've never seen a motor like it on a DT before, ever. And I have done a lot of tackles over the years. I've studied a lot of tackles, and just I don't know how he can play with such a high motor again and again and again and again and again. And these last 2 years have really come on, and this year his run defense has really come up to the mark as well. So I see Walter Nolen, and I see, if he's there at 28, especially if we're going to go to a 3-4 type of front and we want to put him in there with Liam, with Reader when this is all healthy, he is the exact type of player you want on this team. And there's not that many miles on the clock either. And the scary thing is, with just 1,200 snaps under him, he's going to keep getting better. He's going to keep improving, get his spin move going a little more. He's really good. He doesn't use it often enough, but he's just got the entire arsenal of counters. His pass rush, he could probably be a good pass rusher as well, probably better than a lot in this draft. So I just cannot praise Walter Nolen highly enough. And if he's going to be there at 28, I may even take him over some of my favorite pass rushers there at this point. He is destruction. And he is going to be destruction at the next level. So that is Walter Nolen. My next video is going to be on him. I'm going to show you this video because you are really, really going to enjoy it.
What about you, Ash? Have you seen much of him?
Yeah, I've seen a bit of him, and I agree. I really like him. I think the slide is just because, again, it's just sort of that prospect fatigue where some other guys who performed well at the combine, I can't remember if he did. I know he doesn't have a RAS card right now, which doesn't help matters for him, I guess. But it's just that fatigue where other people have rose up, and just because he's kind of stayed the same, he's just by nature been pushed down, which is good news for us because, yeah, if he's there at 28, if Brad really likes him, wants to trade up a couple of spots for him even, because we know what he's like, I can fully back it because, yeah, he's got arguably maybe the best physical tools of any DT in this class. It's just putting it all together. And who better to do that than, the guy that helped Kalijah Cansey turn from an undersized pass rusher into an absolute monster, the guy that helped Villa harness his physical skills and become arguably the best nose tackle in the game. Perfect guy for perfect fit. And even if he has to start initially in year one as a rotational guy behind Aleem, and then, or we move to that 3-4 front I've been calling for about a couple of months now, and he takes a Elijah Cansey role in that sort of variable front that Casey Rogers ran at the Bucks and at the Jets when he was DC there. He'd fit perfectly. So I'm very high, and also Nolen as a Lion potentially.
Yeah, I don't have anything massively to add. The only thing I will say is that obviously he's played at a very high level in college football all 3 years. This year at Ole Miss, having a, reasonably difficult schedule all the way through with, the Ole Miss's run this year. They played against Wake Forest, Kentucky, South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi State, Duke. There's not many layups on their schedule. He didn't have a game graded under 63. He might be the first guy I've seen in this cycle who didn't have, quote unquote, less than an average game, even once. That's exceptional, because you talk about Dan Campbell and about what he looks for on a players, and what did he say when he arrived? He doesn't want any turds on your team. Mm-hmm. And by that he means people who flash but aren't consistent. Well, he's consistent. Against bad teams and good, he will go out there and just give his best. And he'll give some of the better teams some of the more trouble. He wrecked South Carolina, Mississippi State, Georgia, and then still had really good games. You just heard about the LSU game. This is someone who is... Prospect fatigue will be a thing at the media level, but it won't be at the NFL level. They will not be sleeping on him. All right, Ash, time for your first one.
I'll go for perhaps my highest rated guy as well, and someone who might be a bit familiar for our listeners, and that is the Toledo D tackle, Darius Alexander. He is 6'3", 305 pounds, redshirt senior, is 24 years old. He spent all 5 years of his career at Toledo. He has a RAS of 9.14, which was hurt by a short of time, which was seen as very poor by RAS. PFF grade of 90.1 this past season, with a 90.5 run defense grade, 53.6 tackle grade, 78 pass rush, 71.8 coverage grade, 59.5 special teams grade, and a 59.5 run blocking grade. He played 360 snaps on defense, 293 in run defense, 327 pass rush, 10 in coverage. 8 of them were over the A gaps as either a 0 or 1 tech. 545 were over the B gap, 49 over the tackle, 22 outside the tackle. He also played 1 offensive snap in the bowl game, which was as an inline tight end doing some run blocking. He had 27 solo tackles and 7 assisted. He also missed a further 6, which is 15% missed tackle rate, but he made 27 run stops this past season. He also had 37 pressures, so 4 sacks, 8 QB hits, and 25 hurries. He was also targeted once, which he came down with an interception for. He also batted down 3 passes at the line of scrimmage, suffered 2 penalties, and he played 45 special team snaps, had 0 tackles and 0 penalties. So I watched his game against Miami of Ohio, 73.7 defensive grade, 62.9 run defense, 76.4 tackle, 74.9 pass rushing. Played 46 snaps, 12 in run defense and 34 pass rushing. He had 4 pressures, 2 sacks, 1 hit and 1 hurry, and a batted pass. He also made 3 solo tackles, assisted a further 1, did not miss any tackle attempts, and all 4 of his tackles were run stops. So literally from the first play of the game, he disengages from the right guard who is lined up over as a free tech and wraps up the running back for a minimal gain. And then he does it later in the same drive to end that drive. And it was 3rd and 5, just gets the running back, doesn't let him convert, ends that drive. And then later on in the game, he had a great penetration through the 8 gap to get a tackle for loss on the back on a developing outside zone play. So the back was lined up on the quarterback's right, takes the hand off traditionally to do an outside zone to go out, and Alexander just gets him in the backfield. It's absolutely, it was just a great pass rushing, rushing rep from Alexander. Pass rushing, he had a great swim move against the right guard to put some pressure on the QB, and then later in the game just beats the right guard easily off the snap, just quicker, gets up, gets past him, gets a sack. The second sack was a cleanup after the QB just held onto the ball a bit too long. After stepping up the pocket, just stepped right up into Alexander and got him down. But he also had some good reps as well against double teams, especially from the centre and right guard. That was one he's seen quite a lot. He also had one later in the game where he fought through a double team and then through a running back who was also the running back who was also blocking him and still managed to get a QB hit, like just full force, 100% all the time, high kind of motor guy. So someone that Dan and Brad will absolutely love. He did really dominate the low weaker opposition, which is what the NFL kind of wants, as we saw with like Quinlan last year. At this, unfortunately, at the G5 level, you do have to stand out against your opposition to really get that first round consideration. And he really did that. Though he was probably held back a bit by the way that the Toledo used him. So they used him all the way from a 1 tech to the 6 tech. So that's obviously from over the center to outside the tackle, which did hold him back because it sometimes just put him in a really bad situation where his strengths weren't utilized. His best reps were at that 3 tech 4 eye position over the guards, where he's able to use his quick step and his strength to beat them on the snap. So my comparison of him is someone that I know that Ant loved in the draft a couple of years ago, and that's the Steelers' Keanu Benton, because they have really similar builds and they're both good against the pass and the run without a like a sort of standout trait. They've just got good motor, good strength, good quickness, just all round great defensive tackle. His fit for us would be as a rotational backup initially for a lean, with some flexibility to play the nose if you need him to, but he would be best at that 3 tech spot. But of course, if we do move to an odd front, he'll be able to play either the defensive tackle or defensive end role in the sort of 3-4 scheme that Casey Rogers knows very well. So he's currently the 5th interior defensive lineman and the 46th overall prospect according to Mock Draft Database, which puts him at around a mid-second round pick according to the consensus. I would have him just above that range as a high second rounder, with the potential to maybe get into the first, depending on teams liking him. So he would be fit for us at 28. He'd be a fit for the Eagles at 32, with them losing Milton Williams. He absolutely dominated his level off position, which is what the league wants you to do at the G5 level. But as I said, it was held back by the way that Toledo used him. But in the pros, where they know how to use him, he'll be able to potentially flourish initially as a rotational guy, but within a couple of years should be a solid starter in the league on the defensive line. For me, he would be in consideration at 28, but probably there'll be someone there who's higher on our board. But if we trade back into the early second, or God help, if something happens and he falls to 60, I'd absolutely run the card in for him because he'll be a great fit for our defensive line.
And have you seen much of Darius Alexander?
Seen a fair amount of him. He's coming off an absolutely fantastic year, and obviously people covet that size that he has. It's just about perfect for where he plays on the interior. It's he's one of these guys that the potential you can see as a pass rusher is there. Like, he's really good against the run. It's can you unlock the pass rush potential with him at the next level, which is the question. And how high he's going to go. Obviously, he's an older prospect. He's a 6th-year senior this year. He's coming out of the group of 5, so you kind of want a team who's probably going to put him in a little earlier, because you don't have time to sort of faff around with him for a few years before he's ready, because, then he's moving towards 30 and you don't want that. But I think someone's going to be very vestedly interested in him, especially with Quignon coming out of there last year and looking so good. And, you can trust the level of coaching that they're ready to come up to the NFL right away and make an impact right away. He could potentially do that. He just needs to find his right scheme fit where they'll utilize him. I'd like to see him somewhere where there's an established defensive line where he can slot in, and it's not all going to be on him to do his work. He can just sort of get in, embed himself in, and become as great as we think he can. So yeah, he's a good player, but yeah, you've just got to unlock that pass rush with him. But he's got the size, he's got what you need for him there. It's just the coaching's going to be very critical here, but no doubt he's a good player, and he'll be a good player at the next level.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's got a pretty relentless motor himself. We were talking about Walter Nolen, and Alexander isn't quite at that level, but man, he goes and goes and goes, and the explosion out of his stance is pretty great for someone of his size. So he's going to give a lot of people problems, but as you say, there's a lot of polishing to do, and he is an older prospect. So if you can draft him to a team where he's going to rotate with someone who's going to play 60% of the snaps as a veteran player who maybe has like 1 or 2 years left on his deal, where he can kind of then step into being the sort of primary player after that player moves on. I think that would be absolutely perfect. Or, where a hole's been vacated by a veteran recently, but you got another veteran next to him. So, like, the Bucks come to mind, potentially. I don't know, as a potential location. But, if you don't take him in the first, then there's going to be a lot of teams who would really love him at the back of the first, who have to wait an entire round to go and get him next time. And I don't see a lot of the teams at the top of the draft in the first round thinking that he might be a good idea at the top of the second. I think he's got a really weird kind of draft spot where if he doesn't go by 32, he might see himself waiting into the 50s. And I don't know, maybe that's a bit simplistic, but we shall see. Anyway, it's going to be my turn in a minute, so I better get ready. Any other comments, boys, on Darius Alexander before I move on? All right, I'm going to go. You've all gone with your highest profile player, so I think I need to do the same. My memory and my thinking has just completely gone to pot, by the way, since I've been abroad and got it. So there we go. I've changed the name there. 2 seconds. Getting there. All right, so I'm taking on Derrick Harmon from Oregon, if I can load up the right damn page. Okay, so Derrick Harmon, he's a redshirt junior from Oregon. He only at them this year. He was at Michigan State before. He is born and bred in Detroit. He's an in-state guy, so obviously took the step up to Oregon for his final year before declaring. He had an 83.9 grade this year by PFF. He's 6'0", so just under 6'4.5", 313 pounds. It doesn't have an overall RAS grade, but he did run his 40-yard dash in I can't read that. 4.95, which at 313's, pretty damn handy. Didn't start in 2021 for Michigan State, hence the red shirt. Then played almost 500 snaps apiece in 22 and 23. Kind of had a breakout in 2023 with a 78.4 grade. Took the step up and his best year yet of an 83.9. He is a bit more of your sort of at his height interior guy, I would say. Mostly 0-1 tech is where he played at Oregon, although he did go all the way out to the 5. He really kind of transformed his arsenal this season, going from a 78.4 grade last year at Michigan State with only 20 pressures to an 83.9 grade this year with 55 pressures. So obviously Oregon having that much better at defensive line kind of helped him out and freed him up to do what he did. But his pressure rate went up something rotten. He really did something very, very good. I said 0-1, but he's really more of a 3. I don't know why I said 0-1. Apologies. I watched the game against Ohio State in the playoffs where he got 3 pressures, 3 tackles, and what strikes me about him straight away is how heavy his hands are. When he gets his punch in, which is a very consistent one, he can cause offensive linemen to stagger backwards. He really can impose his will very quickly, and he's very good at hand fighting. So when that initial punch doesn't work, he keeps working it. The offensive line are having to really battle through every rep. He doesn't get beaten easily. He's quick enough to hit gaps that appear despite his height and weight. So even though he's 6'4.5" and 313 pounds, he is electric off the ball. If anyone gives him an inch, he's going to take an absolute mile. The only problem with that, especially at his height, is his pad level lacks. And it's a problem when he doesn't win straight away. So, okay, I do say he doesn't lose necessarily easily, but if he doesn't win straight away, he may not win either. He'll give offensive linemen problems, but when you are at DT, pressures are well and good, but are you able to convert that because you're getting to the quarterback quickly enough, or you're managing to get into the backfield quickly enough? He needs to work on it, especially his height, because otherwise it's going to be a problem at the next level. He's got a really great habit where he just keeps powering his legs, driving his legs, that sort of like climbers will do when they really kind of pump those legs when you're going up against a brick wall. So when he gets stopped with his bull rush, he will keep going, and then start driving downwards to get that leverage. So if he could do that straight away instead of doing it only when he meets resistance, he would see more consistent wins. His football IQ's great. He either knows the design of the play and so knows when to time when they're bringing stunts to maximize the impact of it, or he's able to see how other people are doing their rep and ad-lib going into stunts, like even when it isn't called. I thought that was really impressive that he was able to kind of wheel around an edge player or use the nose on a rep to get around the other side of them, or, you could see that the mind is really, really sharp, which is great. He's a fundamentally good 1 and 2 gapper, so whether it's making sure that he's taking both a left and right hand gap, keeping his head up whilst kind of slowly walking the guy back from the offensive lineman into the running back. He's also able to penetrate upfield when he does see that gap. He's got, even though he plays at the high pad level, he's still got a good anchor. So even if he's being slightly out leveraged, he's not going to go back more than a step most of the time. He's urgent as a player, but unlike some of the other players I'm going to profile, laterally, he's not great. So when he can shoot gaps, but you're not going to see him. I don't expect his 3-cone drill to be particularly good, if I'm frank. You're not going to see him bend. And so that's really what's going to limit him being able to do anything on the edge. You're not going to see him be a big end like we've seen, us try and be flexible with guys. That's not going to be his game. If he's at the 7 technique, I think you're really doing him a disservice. He does have some pass rush moves. He's got a rip. He's got a really good swim move. The timing on the punches are really what allows him to win quickly. Whether that's effective at the next level when he plays against better offensive linemen, I'm not sure. But he is a player who really gets you off your feet and, kind of excites you when you're watching him. He doesn't have a huge amount of counters. He did show off a spin counter win, which was really good and really tight, which is funny considering I just said he can't bend, but he can spin, which is a bit weird. I only saw it once, and it was only really quite late on in a rep when it was all but lost anyway, and it caused an instant win. I'd love to see it become a primary move, not even as a counter, and I'd love to see it be a counter a bit more often when he doesn't win straight away. I know I said he keeps working the offensive lineman and he keeps them engaged in a rep and keeps pressing them, but it was such a good spin that I thought it was massively underutilized. Like, let's see that a bit more often. What else do I have here? Wrestler-like technique sometimes with his leverage, so if he doesn't play too high, or even if he does play a little bit high, he can often outmaneuver people into gaining the leverage, even when he loses initially. He's mostly a bull rusher. That's pretty much all I have on him. Because he's so active with his hands, and because it wins really quite well, and because he's so often in the backfield and he gets pressures so often because of how quick he is off the ball, I think people are going to fall in love with what he might be at the next level. The hip stiffness, the lack of ability to bend gives me a little bit of pause. So it's an interesting projection for me, because when I looked at some of the other players in this class, I do think maybe you can hang your hat on what you do. And if that translates, you will be a plus starter in the NFL day one. But it's an if. At the moment, I've got him graded at a kind of very solid first round player, probably somewhere in the early 20s is where I'd kind of peg him to be. So, not dissimilar to what we were just hearing from the Ole Miss player Walter Nolen, potentially in that sort of similar range. Maybe Nolan's slightly ahead, but it's very close to me, I think. That's all from me. What have you guys seen from Derrick Harmon?
It's funny you talk about the whole big end thing, because I think that's where he should play at the next level.
Really?
I think he's 6'5" with a nearly 30% missed tackle rate in the interior. That ain't gonna fly at this level. Not as an interior guy. He struggles with double teams a lot of the time as well. I see with his size and his build, I'd drop a tiny bit of weight. I'd go on the edge, and I think getting more one-on-one looks with his abilities, the ability to crush the pocket the way he does, I think he'd thrive more in an environment where he's a little bit further out there. Obviously, he's had a good year this year with Oregon, but Oregon, same with Nolen, really got a really good defensive line. Two of those guys going to get drafted, and obviously it's been a hell of a good defense there this year as well. So, before that at Mich State, the production wasn't there as much. He is great though. Like when he's on form, he really is. I know I can see what he can be, and his final product would be worthy of a first round pick, a high one at that. But there's just some concerns there. Walter Nolen goes at 4% for his missed tackles. He is and he's an aggressive player who is and they're prone to overshooting their gaps. They're prone to, being a little bit too, lively and just missing these things. You've got to be better than that. You cannot come up with nearly 30% on your missed tackles. You've got to be, your technique's got to be better. If you're 6'5", guys are going to get underneath you. They're going to leverage you around, getting down for these smaller running backs, trying to bring them down. If your technique ain't good, it's going to cause problems. So I would like to see him out to the 3 tech, to the 5 tech, get more one-on-one looks, be able to utilize him better at what he can do and use that size and frame for what it should be used for. Obviously, you can move him around here, there, and anywhere. I think he's a nice little chess piece you can do there, but I think you'll get more out of him the further you knock him outside. That's just my thing with him.
I think the thing that's really interesting with him, from what I saw from Michigan State up to Oregon, is that I think the reason why the amount of pressure is more than doubled is that I think Oregon basically said, don't worry about run defense, we're good, get upfield. And he found himself quite often trying to penetrate whilst the ball's being handed off to the running back who's running in the other direction, as opposed to him possibly being a bit more of a cautious player with pass rush upside at Michigan State, and that allowed him to focus a bit more on the tackling aspect of things, because he went from 12% missed tackle rate last year to 27% this year. And I mean, when you say 27%, that sounds awful, but it's 12 missed tackles. I know that.
But DTs who don't generally get that many tackles in a year, that's a lot.
Oh no, I know it is, but what I'm saying is,
Oregon have played him on the edge. Oregon have played him as an end this year. I mean, several games they've played him more as an end than a tackle, and I think that's where his success is coming from. You're getting more looks. You're getting more single looks, and you're able to, again, use that 6'5" frame a little bit better. So I think Oregon did unlock something better in him this year, but you've still got to get under pressure. Like a lot of these top guys, especially, those problems don't exist with them. That's where you got to separate yourself.
You seen him at all, Ash?
Yeah. So for me, he is a free tech, especially in our kind of scheme where that free tech is given those one-on-ones, because obviously the one tech, so for us, it's reader, takes up a double team. That allows a lean, usually a lean, but the free tech to have a one-on-one against, it's usually the right guard. That's something he could really excel at. So I do really like him. And obviously he's the hometown guy. Again, he's someone, if we pick him at 28, I'd be very happy, partly because he'll be a great fit for us, gives a bit of versatility, allows us to maybe not play a lean at like 80% of snaps like we usually do, that might have led a bit to his injury. Also gives us a bit of backup with Levi, who may be someone that we can kind of compare him to, a pass rushing free tech who you can slide out to big end if you need him to because of injuries and you want to exploit some matchups. Just allows us to get better there. Plus, it stops him going to the Philadelphia Eagles, because he's the kind of player you just give him to the Eagles, they're going to turn him into the next like Fletcher Cox or something stupid. So, combination of us getting stronger, opposition getting potentially weaker by not getting him, makes me very happy. I was just looking up our missed tackle rate, and you know what, to be fair, quite a lot of our DTs do miss tackles. So Patrick O'Connor, who obviously we just brought back to 23.5 last year. Levi himself was 15. Aleem was nearly 15. Reader was at 10. So I think in our scheme as well, we don't mind so much defensive tackles missing it, because that allows Campbell, Anzalone, Malcolm, Barnes, who'll potentially be back there, they can clean up. So I think the way we like to attack now with our defensive line, I think his kind of mindset of, pass rush first, penetrate the gaps, potentially get that boom or bust play against the run, where it's either a TFL or the linebackers having to clean up. I don't think we mind it as much as other teams might do who, want to do the two gapping stuff that we all used to know so well.
Just some comments from Paul Airwalker, our resident Oregon fan in the Discord channel, who said, Harmon dropped a fair bit of weight coming to Oregon from Michigan State, played mostly 3 tech. Caldwell was our nose and could be a great day 3 pickup. All right, let's move on to Ant, your next guy.
So I'll go from my top guy, my lowest rated guy, when I can find him. So I'm going back to Boston College. I like to go to Boston College these days. They got a lot of good prospects in the draft this year, and this is Cam Horsley. He is 6'4", 306 pounds, although I believe he did weigh in at 312 recently at the combine, put a little bit of weight on there. So he's he's the nose/defensive tackle from the Boston College Eagles. This guy is vastly experienced. He's been there 5 years. He's a graduate senior this year, so he is an older prospect, hence the day 3 rating on him. But he's played in 59 games. He's got 47 starts. He's been playing since his freshman year when he arrived. He was just a 3-star recruit out of Cinnaminson, New Jersey. He was a noted 2-way player in college. He was an offensive tackle and he was a defensive tackle, as so many of these guys are. So he's got a deep, in-depth knowledge of playing on the offensive line and what it takes to beat them on the defensive line. So he has played 2,259 snaps in college, which for a big interior guy is a lot of snaps, because generally they play about 400 or 500 a year. So he's got 378 at the true nose, 1,761 at interior defensive tackle, 82 at 5 tech, 38 at the edge. So a lot of those sites out there that don't know much about these guys saying he's some oversized nose tackle who can just do nothing but stop the run on day 3. They're talking out their arse. He is, for me, he's really underrated prospect coming into this process. So to say, this is a guy, he's been loyal to Boston College his entire career. He's had a very productive career. He's not left. For me, first and foremost, shows the attitude, shows the right mindset. He's done his interviews. He said he never ever wanted to leave there. He's wanted to build a legacy at this place, and he has done. He's going to go down as one of their best defensive tackles. 68 quarterback pressures, 6 sacks, 3 hits, 59 hurries, 167 tackles all told. The missed tackle rate is just a smidge over 9% for his career. 97 run stops, 11 battered passes. So, this is a bit of a versatile DT. So he spent the first few years playing at 3 tech, sort of doing, sort of evolving his pass rush, and then the last 2 or 3 years they've been moving him slightly further inside, having him do work at the nose, having him work on the run game aspect, and year on year, every year for 5 years, his run grades and his run defense have got better, verging on elite the last 2 years now. He really reminds me of Aleem coming out of college, and we'll go through this. It's just the attributes that he has. So this is a guy who, yes, first and foremost, he works against the run. Like I say, you've got this big 6'4", 306-pound frame of his. He's done a lot of work on the interior. This is another guy coming out of the Boston College trenches who is very well trained. He has got very good technique. I watched specifically him play for this, and I've watched quite a few of his games, but I watched him when they played against Virginia this year just to see some of the bits he's got in his arsenal here. And as I say, it's just very good technique. There's a rep where he locks up with the left guard. It's a 1v1, just completely turns him inside out, just completely flummoxes him with his hands. uses it to bring down the running back for a tackle for loss. These are the plays you want to see from him first and foremost against the run, but he's also very good when it comes to working against mobile quarterbacks, and that's what's having such vast experience in college and staying around for so long. You can really tell he's learned a lot about the game. So on this design quarterback run that Virginia do, so he's one-on-one versus the center. The center's trying to box him off to the inside. He can see that it's going to be a quarterback run. 'Cause, the ball's snapped and he's just sort of hanging around back there, waiting for the gap to appear. And you can deliberately see him set the outside edge against the center. That's his gap that he needs to block off. He doesn't allow the center to get onto the outside of him. He maintains that outside leverage. Got great strength, and when the quarterback starts to try and make the run because the big end has been moved out of position, the second he moves to hit that gap, Horsley just disengages and swallows him right up. It's just really good run defense play from your interior lineman. There's another play where he's up against the left guard. Again, his arms are really quick, just uses them to completely move aside the left guard, get into the backfield. It's a fake handoff. And again, he doesn't just go in all guns blazing towards the quarterback and the running back. He almost sits and waits. He sees the handoff. He can smell that it's a fake. The quarterback keeps it. And again, he tries to roll out to the left, and he's just all over him. It's a one-on-one tackle that he has to make as well for this big hunk of a defensive tackle against this small athletic quarterback. He takes him down one-on-one in the field. Another tackle for loss. Then you start to see the bull rush come out later. He has a bull rush against the right guard where he walks him right back into the quarterback, Colindrea, who has to get out the pocket very quickly because otherwise he'd be taken out by his own man. So he's got the work with his arms. He's got the bull rush in his arsenal as well. There's another one where he's grappling up with the center, and it's a pass that's thrown just over his head, actually. Second the ball's past him, you see him disengage from the center. He turns his head to see if he can make a play on the ball. And yes, he's not the most athletic DT in the world, but ball lands not far from him with a receiver. And his short area speed's actually quite good. He just shoots back and takes this guy down before he's able to take the ball for any yak. So while you don't see it like crazily all the time, him doing all these track back things, if he knows he can make a play, he will come back and hustle and make plays on the ball if he can't do it up against the line. So when it comes to, and when I see when is he like a Liam, you've got only 6 sacks in college, but you've got nearly oh, hang on, where were we? We got nearly 70 quarterback pressures in there. So it's just 6 sacks to 59 hurries. So it shows you there is a pass rush arsenal in him. It was the same with Aleem when he came out of college. Like, the sacks weren't necessarily there compared to the pressure he got. But when we sat and watched the tape, you could see he had the pass rush moves. He had the ability to do it. He was just sometimes a second or two too late. It's all about conditioning yourself, just getting those moves up, that technique a little bit better, and you start converting into some of these bigger plays. But first and foremost, he was a great run defender, so you could put him straight into the team, and you could you can use him right away whilst you build the rest of his game up. And when I watch Cam and how he plays, I see a guy who can come in and he can make plays against the run right away. Now, there is some fine tuning with him. You do need to condition him a little bit better because, you do see some plays where he's just like, right, I'm going to save myself here. I'm going to wait for another one. They do play him quite a lot, though. But if you can just condition him, you can get him in a little bit of better shape. You can start refining just some of these, because the pass rush moves are not there for the most part. Like I say, he's got really good arms. He'd be able to, but you don't see too much swiping. You don't see any spins. You don't see anything like that. But if you add them to his arsenal, you're going to start getting pressure on the quarterback as well. And for who is going to be a day 3 pick, I think there's a lot of untapped potential for him here. Now, the age scares people off, which I get. People who are ignorant to his game, who think he's just going to be some kind of run-stuffing guy, won't value him positionally very much either. I think there's a lot more to be had here with Cam, as I say. Like, first and foremost, he's going to be really good on the interior defending the run. And I think in time, you can rotate him in and out, use him for that. But I think he can take a similar career path to Aleem. After 2 or 3 years in, you can use a guy in both facets of the game potentially, and you're not spending a high-level pick on him either. you can just sit and draft and develop him. And we've seen firsthand with these Boston College prospects how well prepared they come into the league technically. It's just refining them and getting them to where you want to. So I think he's potentially in that next category for me. So Cam Horsley, I'm a big fan of as a dark horse prospect here. Would he be someone we'd take? Potentially. You got Gio Lopez in for a year at nose tackle, and if you want to bring him in to be that guy going forward, if you want more insurance for Broderick, potentially, you can bring him in for that. But he's vastly experienced. He's got exactly the right attitude that you want. He's got all the attributes we're looking for. So yeah, Cam Horsley for me, he's my dark horse prospect amongst these DTs, and I wouldn't mind him here. One bit if the price was right.
Ash, have you seen anything from Cam Horsley?
Yeah, unfortunately so this past season because he played against a certain Seminole team and did pretty well. 2 pressures, 2 tackles, assisted tackle, run stop. Pretty decent game from him. So yeah, I like him as a day 3 guy. Obviously, we alluded at the top. We don't need to be fixed on the free text as much as that's what I'd prefer. Of course, he can come in, he can play that, he can play the nose, and yeah, he can rotate slowly but surely in with Lopez, and then potentially, when hit Lopez and Reader are gone next year, he could start at the 1 tech for us. He could move, and if we do move to a 3-4, again, someone who can play both either the defensive tackle, the nose tackle spots. Very versatile in terms of long defensive line, in terms of at least those interior ones, keep him either over a guard or a center, in my opinion. But someone you can kind of trust that floor, which is kind of what I'm looking for now in day 3, because we've had our development projects now with Broderick and Manu. We kind of saw last year that the point we're at as a team now, we kind of need to build up that depth that, if there's an injury, you can put them in a game and not really have a drop off. So Horsley's definitely up there for me, even though I didn't realize I'd watched him until when I was from Boston College. Like, oh yeah, now I remember him. Quickly looking him up, 96. I was like, yeah, I remember seeing him a bit when he played Florida State. So I'd definitely be happy with him, even if, he did beat us early in the season.
He's a proper bowling ball, isn't he? He just gets downhill and he just loves to drive. Like, that's a wicked bull rush he's got. The other thing as well is there's multiple examples on tape this year of him getting batted passes where he doesn't win, just sticks a hand up there and times that super well. It's only a small thing, but that can make all the difference in a game. There's also, I've just been watching some of his highlight reel. Against SMU, they're 3 points up, just starting their drive 1st and 10 at their own 30s. So with 6 minutes to play, if SMU put a drive together, they're going to win. If Boston College can, hold them, then maybe with, 3 points down, they can maybe drive for a victory on the road against the 14th ranked team when they were only 5-4 and SMU were 8-1. So, bit of a mismatch of teams slightly, but they've got a big chance. 1st and 10, SMU call a tight, I think it's a tight end screen. Actually, let me roll it forward. Oh, it's a wide receiver's screen. And he sniffs that out from the defensive tackle position, looks to rush upfield, realizes what's happened and the offensive linemen are bailing out, gets to where he thinks the ball's going to be thrown to and bats that down. And then the play before on this highlight reel, he should have had a pick because he is reading the play really well. So he might not have many pass rush moves, but he gets upfield, he's super aggressive, and he reads the game really well. So yeah, maybe there's some polishing to do, but he clearly has got the football nous. Like, he's an impressive looking player. All right. We're going to move it on to Ash's second guy. Who you got for us?
Well, we're about to stray into the world of epic poetry with some Aeneas Peebles, the Roman hero and Virginia Tech defensive tackle. He's 6 foot, 282 pounds, a grad transfer from Duke. So he spent the first 4 years of his career there, then spent his final year with the Hokies. He's 23 and about half year old. He'll turn 24 in November. He has a RAS of 7.03, which was brought down a lot by his size because he is an undersized defensive tackle. This past year, 89.1 defensive grade, 78.5 run defense, 55.3 tackle, 91.2 pass rushing, 60.2 coverage, and then 48.1 special teams. played 516 defensive snaps this past season, 223 in run defense, 289 pass rush, 4 in coverage. 36 of his snaps came in the A gap, 384 in the B gap, 78 over the tackle, 17 outside the tackle. He had 18 solo tackles, 8 assisted, missed a further 4, so 13.3% missed tackle rate, 20 run stops. He also had 37 pressures, 3 sacks, 3 QB hits, 31 hurries, and 2 batted passes. Did concede 3 penalties, unfortunately, and then on his 31 special team snaps, didn't get a tackle, conceded another penalty. So I watched his game this year at Miami against the presumptive number 1 overall pick he was currently throwing at his pro day. He had a 76.9 defensive grade, 78.5 run defense, 42.9 tackling, 77.7 pass rush, 59.9 coverage. Played 44 snaps, 15 in run defense, 28 in pass rush, and 1 in coverage. He had 5 pressures, which was 1 sack and 4 hurries. Made no solo tackles, but had 2 assisted, missed a further 1, and 1 of his tackles was a run stop. So overall, based on his profile, you're undersized, pass rush, and free tech. But he is good against the run. So in the game against Miami, he was able to disengage from the right guard, and he assisted a tackle on the running back on the opposite side of the line. So he's able to get off his guy, get across the line, and make the tackle on the back, showing some of the athleticism he has. And then in the same game, does the same again against the right guard, disengages when he sees the running back coming through that gap and gets him to the ground just in front of the line of scrimmage. But when he's pinning his ears back and sort of instead of two gapping, when he's one gapping trying to get through the gap, he does it really well. So he does one again through the right hand B gap where he shoots the gap, the back's coming on an outside zone and he forces him outside for a minimal gain where the linebacker's able to clean it up. And he just misses a shoestring tackle on Damian Martinez after penetrating that B gap again, just misses. And that's his 1 missed tackle, unfortunately, but it was a shoestring one. So don't really hold it against him. But his calling card, as you can tell, is his pass rush. So for his size, he has a really, really good ball rush against that right guard, just forced him back in toward which way his throw. And then he also had a very good rep against the right tackle where the Hokies were playing this sort of weird 3-man front where they had a nose tackle, guy over the left guard, and then they had Peebles over the right tackle, lined up over the right tackle's outside shoulder, and again, just forced him back in toward. But he does have some other moves to his locker. So there was a very good rip move against the right guard where he wins the rep pretty quickly with it. And then he also does have a spin move. So I noticed it one time where he used it just trying as a counter. But then his sack on Ward was where he just used the spin move on him, instantly wins the rep, gets Ward down. So someone that's got real athleticism, pass rushing upside. But because of his size, he does get bottled up by double teams quite a lot. So there was one pass rushing rep where both the right guard and right tackle double team him. And then for some reason, the running back who's running a route decides to chip him as well, just as an extra little FU. So I was bottled up by that because his build is very top heavy. So he's got your sort of more traditional defensive tackle build up top. His legs look more like a linebacker. So when he gets to the NFL, he kind of needs to hit the squats and the deadlifts and that at the NFL weight room, because if he's able to fill them out and sort of remove the top heavy nature of his sort of build, he'll win a lot more reps, because there were quite a few against Miami, unfortunately, where because he's top heavy, the offensive line was able to use his higher center of gravity against him and pancake him, unfortunately. But the sort of good bit of sort of having those weak, like smaller legs is he's got a very, very good adjustable agility for defensive tackle, which is backed up by his RAS. He has a great explosion score causing to them. But he's able to, as I mentioned earlier, with the run snaps where he's able to disengage and get across the other side of the line. It's sort of playing that balancing act of you want to fill out his legs, so he's not top heavy, but you don't want to take away the lateral agility from him. So it's a kind of balancing that you have to do with him. And given his sort of size and obviously my profile of sort of defensive tackles I like, he does have shades of Kalijah Gansey and Braden Fisk. So this penetrating undersized free techs who use their athleticism to beat offensive linemen off the snap and get into the backfield. Doesn't really have the sort of elite calling cards that they had. So obviously, Cansey had that elite first step where it almost looked like he was teleporting. Fisk has that ability where he could play anywhere from the 0 tech to basically like the 7 tech. He's got experience all there. Peebles is kind of in between them, where he's got that quick first step, he's got a bit of positional versatility, but he doesn't have those elite calling cards that they have, which is why he's more of a day 3 prospect on most boards. And to fit for us, of course, be a rotational piece behind a Liam at that free tech spot, especially if he hits the sort of right room with the training staff and gets that sort of bottom half filled out properly. He'd be a very, very good, least rotational player against the both run and the pass, but with the upside to be at least a average starter at the free tech if we need him to be. So he's currently the 17th rated defensive tackle and the 137th overall prospect on the consensus board and mock draft database, which puts him as a low 4th round pick. I would have him higher ranked than that, with a high 4th round grade, bordering on maybe a low third round grade. He has athleticism and experience to survive as a rotational piece in the pros, but as I mentioned, does need to sort of redistribute his weight, because better offensive line will be able to use his high center of gravity against him. Could be in the conversation for 102 if we haven't gone defensive tackle early with one of the guys we've already previously mentioned or someone else. But if he does fall to 130, if we haven't loaded upon defensive line, he should be one of the first names on our board, because he would just fit in like a glove in our scheme.
And have you seen much from Peebles?
I specifically watched that game against Miami as well. It was a cracker of a game which they won with no time to go at all. But he is very disrespected. Aeneas is, considering like the pass rush win rate from him is up there with some of the best in the nation. Like full stop. He is an explosive, when he makes his plays, it's must-see stuff. He's just one of the guys that get off some of these big lugging, interior offensive linemen who are a little slow out of stance, are really going to struggle against him, and he's going to cause them all sorts of problems. I think in Peebles' case, where it comes down to, it obviously it's the frame, so it's how do you do against the run at the next level, but it's how, your pass rushing and how good you are with your pass rushing. 36 pressures this year, 3 of them are sacks. If that conversion rate is just a little bit better, that's not a be all and end all with them, but when you're undersized and you can struggle against the run, you really want to have the end product there just to show that, I can do it. Because coming up to the NFL, the competition is going to get higher. It's going to get harder to go and get those sacks as well. So if you're selling yourself as, I'm going to go out there and kill some quarterbacks for you, you'll want to see the conversion rate be a little bit higher, but you've got to make the opportunities for yourself in the first place, and he does because of the talents he has at his disposal. I like the pass rush arsenal in there. Again, the explosion, the get off the first step is just, tremendous. And in terms of like the violence that Dan and Brad and guys like this look for, he if you well got it, he may be small, but he'll hit someone a lot bigger than him and they will absolutely feel about it. But I like technique, and he has technique, and that is the be all and end all for me. Technique can overcome size differentials. It can overcome some of these things that people are going to ping you for. And, it sounds very lazy to say. It depends where he lands and who he lands with and how they're gonna teach him. Because, if you've got a system where they're gonna be able to unlock him and to be able to use those tools to finish off these plays, you're potentially gonna get a very disruptive pass rusher at the next level. You go get him in day 3. It may take a bit of time, but you will get there. He's got all the traits to work with. He just needs someone to get him that last step and get consistent production out of him, good production out of there. So, yeah, I think he's entirely slept on. When you're looking at other guys in that ilk in day 3, I mean, you're looking at a lot of guys who have very evident ceilings, like, that they can only do this, they can only do that. But him, as in terms of a potential game changer, he could be a game changer. There are not many guys who are legitimate chances of being game changers in day 3. So, he's a very intriguing prospect for sure. And whoever gets him, like, I'll be intrigued to see how they deal with him. But I think there's every chance he could slip into that comp pick territory if he wanted to. So, it depends, because the D tackle class, although we're trying to upsell it here, it gets pretty barren after the first couple of days. So these guys may rise up the ranks as such.
All right, I'm going to move on to my second guy. I'm going to take my lower graded guy, who I think caused some eyebrows to be raised when he tore up, I can't remember which one it was, whether it was a Senior Bowl or whether it was a Shrine, but CJ West. Does anyone remember which one he went to? I kind of think it was a Senior Bowl, but I'm not 100%. Anyway, ignore me. I didn't research that bit because I was short on time. But this is CJ West of Indiana. He is a redshirt senior, having spent his first 4 years at Kent State in the MAC before taking the jump up to Indiana for his final year. He's 6'0", 316 pounds. He had a PFF grade this year of 83.8. Played almost 2,000 snaps on defense in college with 4 starting years. So he's played a lot of ball, with the majority of that coming between the 0 to 4i. I think really he's more of a 0 to 2i type of guy. 25 pressures in this most recent year with 40 tackles, 2 sacks, 18.2% missed tackle rate, forced fumble and fumble recovery. In his first 4 seasons at Kent State, that missed tackle rate was 20.6%, so it's come in a little bit, but even 18.2 this year, it's still a little high. But this guy's supremely athletic. Done 28 on the bench. His 40-yard dash is a 4.95 with a very good 1.73 10-yard split and a 33-inch vert at 316 pounds, which is ridiculous. This guy really can explode out the blocks, and it really shows on tape. So I've watched, unfortunately, because of a bit of a lack of tape, only half of the game against Michigan, where Indiana, I would say upset, but it clearly wasn't given the records of the two teams. But Indiana got only their second win in, I think, 28 attempts against Michigan. And CJ West was a really big part of that victory. He was very impressive. He had an 81.6 grade, 6 pressures, 6 tackles, although 2 missed tackles. What was really impressive was his ability to just cause havoc on the line with his ability to use leverage to his favor. So Michigan center, who I think was Greg Crippen, had an absolutely torrid time against him. He was just able to out-leverage him on a majority of plays. He was able to do a really nice stunt where he freed up the defensive end by taking out 2 defensive linemen to create a tackle for a loss. His really heavy hands caused the left guard to stagger backwards straight off the snap by about 1.5 yards, and this happened multiple times in the game. Active hands, again, much like I was saying with Derrick Harmon, means that the offensive line has to really keep working to keep him at bay all the way through each and every rep. His explosion off the snap is exceptional for someone of his size. I mean, at 316 pounds, he's in the backfield pretty damn fast, and he's got a good anchor against one-on-ones. It's not great, and I think he's going to struggle against double teams, frankly. For someone of this size, he's... Shrine Bowl, Perry Ball said thank you. He's got very surprising pass rush upside. He is a very good player in that regard. Again, showing off heavy hands, able to redirect offensive linemen when they want to fence them off and create a nice gap for the running back. He is there just putting them back in that gap, or putting himself in that gap and the offensive lineman the other way, because he's able to just... He's got elite upper body strength. Like, for someone who is a pressure player, when he wants to do all of this stuff, he really can. Managed to tip a swing pass, so he was kind of out on the edge a little bit for 1 rep, saw that it was going to go that way, managed to time the jump, so he got a feather of a finger on it, which made it incomplete. Got an incredible rep where he had leverage on the ball rush and forced the offensive lineman back about 6 yards into the backfield. You know, just that one where you just kind of get underneath the shoulders and drive upwards. It was a picture-perfect rep. Good 2-gapping technique as well. He was keeping his eyes downfield as the running back was coming towards him. He gave up 1 yard going backwards to keep his eyes on the running back and managed to make a really nice tackle. That's kind of where I ended with all of this in terms of the tape review, just because of a lack of time with me being ill, so apologies for this being a slightly incomplete evaluation, but he's a really exciting prospect. The problem with him is going to be consistency, because he definitely flashes the ability that you want to see for someone to be that interior lineman with pass rush upside who can stand up against the run, regularly out leverages opponents, good anchor. He needs a bit of polish with his pass rush moves and counters. It tends to just be a bit of ball rush or speed rush around the outside of a player or shooting gaps, and that's pretty much his game. If he doesn't have a good get up off the ball, then his pad level can suffer a little bit. So if he doesn't win straight away, he's got to stay a little bit lower than he does normally. But I think that pad levels are fairly consistent criticism of a lot of these guys. So, can you train that into him? I think yes for him. His arms are a bit short, 31 and a half. It's not ideal for someone who's only 6'1". We're criticizing some of these guys for having a high pad level at 6'4", 6'4 and a half. He's only 6'1". He's only got 31 and a half inch arms. That might mean that he struggles against some of the better offensive linemen, but what he did to Michigan, which is a bloody good offensive line most of the time, was fairly embarrassing for Michigan, if I'm frank. He wrecked him. So he's got a little something that I would really like to see. I've got him as a mid-third round grade, I think I said on here, off the basis of what I've seen so far. But frankly, I've got a bit more tape to watch before I give him a full kind of evaluation of where I think he might be. I wouldn't be surprised to see him kind of go in that early day 3 range, top of the 4th round, something like that when all is said and done. Boys, he really did take the Shrine Bowl by storm. I think he was one of the big winners consistently across all of the days of practice. Have you seen much from him? I mean, Indiana had a terrific season.
So that Indiana team has been on. I've been watching James Carpenter and Mikhail Camara there for 2 years now. They're two much better prospects I like on that line as well. CJ West is a very good player, but that Indiana D-line was menacing this year. Mikhail Camara is going to be a first-round edge next year. James Carpenter is an absolutely elite defensive tackle who's just got ridiculous production over his career. And them two paired with CJ have formed something tremendous there at Indiana this year. The run defense has been spot on. The amount of pressure they've created from the interior, these guys together formed a formidable tandem. And in CJ's case, he's been messed around quite a lot. Like, I remember his days at Kent State, he started off, I think, as the nose tackle there. Then they tried to move him outside more to 3-tech. And then Indiana have come in and they've put him inside the guards again. So, like, he's been moved around these lines trying to find his natural home. And I think it is. It's that sort of 2-tech position where you play. That's where he's going to really thrive. But he's another who's just got such great burst off the pocket. And that's what all these guys at Indiana have. Like, the first step, their ability to collapse the pocket really quickly. They did it well against Michigan. It's just sort of beholden to what this team is all about. And he's always been a good run defender. Again, for the size, he's got the size you want. For me, he's got the burst that you want. It's just some of the techniques, because again, he's been moved around quite a lot and you've never really been able to settle and find the home for him that you want to. But I think as a project, there's a lot to like about him. Obviously, he's vastly experienced as well through his college career. So he's coming in with plenty of snaps. He's coming in with versatility. I think he's got, he's good against the run. There's pass rush upside there for him. Obviously, they're going to have to bring that out in him if he wants to go high in this draft. But that's why he's probably going to go a little lower. But I think he's a really good player. But again, I've really enjoyed watching the prospects on this Indiana D-line. They're not a fluke. They're all very good, and most of them are going to get drafted at some point. And they've been very well coached by Kurt Signetti there as well. So I would not put it past him to defy the odds and come up and do something quick sooner rather than later. So I do like him. As I say, I prefer Carpenter and Camara more, but that's because I just really, 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 really like them. But yeah, I think he's a good prospect for sure.
I mean, Camara really, really jumped off the tape in that game as well.
Camara's ridiculous. Camara's ridiculous.
Crazy good. Really enjoyed that. Anyway, Ash, have you seen much from CJ West?
Only like little flashes, and he just gives me vibes of like Timmy Jernigan, that kind of defensive tackle who isn't the biggest name, probably is better next to someone who takes most of the attention, but he's just a solid, reliable starter when you play him. So obviously, Jernigan played in Baltimore, played for the Eagles, played a tiny bit for the Broncos before retiring. Always had someone better next to him. So most notably, probably Fletcher Cox in Philadelphia, but just is a solid, dependable starter when you need him.
All right. It's the last one each, and it is Ant's turn to go.
So I'll go back to one of the bigger guys here, and maybe he's slated to go before Walter Nolen is, but I think this might be the first time I've ever done a Michigan product on one of these before. I generally tend to stay away from them given inherent in-state bias for some of these guys. But yeah, I've got Kenneth Grant. I've got that one. I've got the secondary one because the other one's going to go way too high for us to draft and shouldn't really be in this conversation. But yeah, Kenneth Grant, part of one of the best DT tandems in the entire country by far. Him and Mason Graham have just been an absolute force of nature for Michigan. And when you are described by your head coach as a gift from God, there is, that is high praise to be given as a player, and they've certainly lived up for it. But Kenneth Grant, 6'3", 340 pounds, but he does not play like he's 340 pounds. He plays like he's 200, or he moves like he's 240 pounds. As I say, defensive tackle for the Michigan Wolverines. He's been there for 3 years. Another guy who is declaring early. Again, a lot of these top guys are all juniors. They're not seniors. 41 games. 17 of them starts, which is where we'll get to that a little bit later. Just over 1,000 snaps in his college career. So again, not one of the most tenured vets in the books. He's got 300 at the nose, 734 at interior D tackle to the 3 tech position, and then just 16 at the 5 tech or the edge. This guy works exclusively in the middle. But one of the things about him coming out early, he's only 21. This is a very young prospect who you're going to have a long time to mold into an absolute stud, which Jim Harbaugh will when they draft him to the Chargers at 22 in the draft. He was only a 3-star rated prospect coming in. He wasn't like Mason Graham, the high-star recruit, came out of Maryville. He was a two-way player in college, in high school, as well. He played as a guard. And he played as a D tackle, so he plays at his natural position, and he's also played at the position which he's paid to go out there and destroy. And you can sort of tell in the way that he plays that, he's got very much insider knowledge of how to play the guard position. In terms of his stats in college, so 52 quarterback pressures, 8 sacks, 4 quarterback hits, 40 hurries, 69 tackles, missed tackle rate of just 5.5%. He's another who is incredibly good when it comes to wrapping up and using the technique to tackle. 41 run stops, 8 batted passes, 1 interception, 1 pass breakup. He hits you in a multitude of ways. If you can't get to the quarterback, then he's finding passing lanes and he's finding ways to get at you. He's a multifaceted defensive tackle, as we say. I've watched quite a lot of his games over the time because as much as I say I hate Michigan, you do end up watching a lot of their football, specifically for this one of watching them play against USC. And just to tell you what he's all about, he is, as I say, a 340-pounder who plays like he's 240 pounds. We talk about get off from the line. We talk about a first step to create a mismatch. He may be more so than any other defensive tackle in this draft. It's the get off that gets you. Like the very first play when they're playing against USC, he's lined up opposite the right guard, and the ball is snapped, and there's just this tiny little stutter that he does to draw the right guard in. The right guard dives, and bang, he's round him. The right guard doesn't even touch him. He just lunges for Grant, and he can't get anywhere near him because he's on his toes and he's gone. And this is what he's all about. He beats you off the first step, and then he powers home with that 340-pound frame, which is just so hard when he's moving to be able to stop him. And this is where he gets a lot of his sacks from. It takes him a bit of time to get to the QB. Like, again, you've only got 8 sacks during your collegiate career. It's not your first and foremost. It's the run game with him. But as I say, that ability to get off the line, get guys on the back feet, he mixes it with, as I say, just superior play strength and athleticism, which for him, He can run quick. He moves like a linebacker, honestly. When you watch him play, the sideline to sideline speed is great. As I say, the strength is top notch, and he's just absolutely dominating when he wants to be. Obviously, it helps that you're working alongside Mason Graham as well, who is going to be an absolute stud at the next level. But he's got a big wingspan, he's got good hand size. The punch off the butt, it just rocks you. The three examples in this game against USC where the right guard just he can't deal with them. The center's struggling with him. Eventually, they have to start bringing in the right tackle to start double teaming him, which creates opportunities for Josiah Stewart on the edge. And they're able to just completely nullify. Michigan's offense was turgid this year, but their defense was tremendous. And again, when it comes to the run game, like the ability to chase down running backs who are a lot smaller and a lot niftier than him. You'll see him harassing them all the way out to the perimeter if they try and break around him. The bigger guys in the middle cannot run through him. He will just, he can take a lot of punishment from some of these heavier bell cow running backs and just still bring them down to the ground. But he can deal with the skinnier, smaller guys as well. It makes him an absolute menace. It's what his game's built on. Probably one of the best, maybe the best run stopper in this, just like the pure run stopper. That's what you're going to get from him right away. But some coach is going to be able to get that pass rush into him. I would think you will drop a tiny little bit of weight. I think he dropped down to 330 for the combine, so there were 10 pounds off. You don't want to drop too much because then you take away about what makes him so great. But just maybe shed a tiny little bit more. And when you start getting to the quarterback with him, he's going to be the polished product. That's why he's, up there around the 20s as a draft prospect. Obviously, it's just the pass rush stuff and how high his ceiling is as a pass rusher that's stopping him from getting into the top 10 like his compadre, who's probably going to go top 5. The other thing that's with him, he's never taken the biggest workload in the book. As I say, 1,000 snaps in 3 years. He didn't really play much his first year. It was just 100 snaps. His snaps have gone up gradually over the last few years, but when you're playing at 340, it does tire you out no matter how athletically gifted you are. And, played at the next level. If you're going to draft him at 22, you want someone who can start, play full games week in, week out, just the conditioning aspect. Again, why I think he should just shed a little bit of weight coming up into the NFL. Not too much. Play him at like 320, something like that, I think will be absolutely perfect with his physical tools. Ras will love him. I don't think he's got a Ras card because I know he wasn't at the combine. He had a niggling little injury. It's nothing serious. He's healthy. He's going to be absolutely fine going into fall camp and all that. And just in terms of exciting prospects and what he can be, like this is potentially one of those guys who could be absolutely fantastic. And if I think Jim gets his hands on him again, then the NFL's in for a really tough time. But yeah, just as this massively athletic, well-trained, well-conditioned, I say technically very gifted defender, another who just, these Michigan D linemen are taught well again. You don't miss tackles, you finish off your plays. When you get your hands on someone, they don't get away from you. I think Kenneth Grant is great. I think he's probably gone long before us. I don't know whether I want him here over Walter Nolen. I prefer the flashiness of Walter Nolen a little bit more, but if he would end up here, then he's going to be a great addition to this team and another who's just an absolute workaholic. Michigan recruits a certain type of guy, and that certain type of guy is probably what Detroit would recruit if they could do the same. So you always know that up here you're going to get a Detroit player out of Michigan. So yeah, Kenneth Grant, absolute stud, great run defender. Potential is limitless. It's just for him. Transition him to a full-time work rate all the time, be able to just, take on that workload at the next level and just bring that pass rushing up to where we know it can be. And yeah, he could be an absolute steal even at 22. He could be a top 5 pick like Mason Graham.
Ash?
I haven't seen too much of him. But I have quickly just looked up. He does have a RAS card, 7.29, which is good enough. Obviously, RAS isn't the best for defensive tackles, blah, blah, blah. But I do like him. But yeah, the thing is, I very much think he's going to be the Chargers pick. Like, you just look at their defense. that defensive line is still pretty light. Like, they're desperate when currently they have the Sean Hand listed as a starter defensive line. So it just seems one of those like easy, write it in pen kind of picks. Just fire and forget it. If he does somehow fall to us, I'd like it. Be able to play him on either interior spot. Could be the potential long-term successor to DJ Reed, in my opinion, though. So probably do want to play more the 0 and 1 tech. Probably does mean bye Broderick. But he's just good. He just needs to drop down. He is suffering a bit of the Jordan Davis syndrome from a couple of years ago, where he's just too heavy for his own good. He does need to drop a bit of weight and improve the conditioning a bit.
I absolutely love him. I don't think he's the better of the two Michigan defensive tackles, but if you told me he went top 10, it wouldn't shock me. It really wouldn't. I'm so high on what he can do. Ant's totally right about his get off the ball. It's elite. And one thing about that is that you can see that offensive linemen have been coached about the fact that he's going to get off the ball quickly to you. So they've been coached to anticipate him getting there early and kind of lean into it. And one thing that he does really well is he's got an elite swim move. So you'll see people coming forward to meet him because of his get up off the ball. And he'll just swim past them because he'll use the fact that they've overextended to get them. It's quite fun because if they don't do that, he might shoot the gap. If they do that, unless you're an exceptional offensive lineman who can meet you halfway and do it balanced, he's beating them before they've got a chance. And I don't know, when I've looked at highlights and some of the ways in which he absolutely wrecks people, it's that swim move that shows up again and again and again. You should not be able to move like he does at his weight. I don't even know whether I'd like him to go down to something like 320. When he said he might lose something like that, so don't lose too much, in some ways, I'd kind of like him to maintain. I don't invoke this name lightly. He does remind me of Vita Vea. He's just such a wrecking ball at that weight. He's not there yet, obviously, but as a prospect, if you told me he had a career like that, yeah, I totally see it. I really think the Chargers might have to trade up if they want him, because there are going to be a lot of teams that have seen... If you think about the trends in the league, you're looking at teams focus more on having a running game like ours. That is the way the league is going. It used to be a pass-happy league. It's always kind of going to be. But it's in vogue right now to be a strong running team. Strong offensive line. The way to meet that is by having someone like Kenneth Grant. If you want to be facing the in vogue teams and how, like how it was in the playoffs, all of these teams bar one or something are top 10 running attacks. Well, okay, if you want to defend against that, Grant is going to be right at the top of your want list. So he's going to get overdrafted if the GMs are thinking along those lines, because he's the best player in the class for that aspect of things at defensive tackle. So
yeah, my only thing against that is you're saying with strength. Admittedly, this is done off Raz, so it's off his arm length particularly, but he's got a sub 4 grade. Well, he's got 3.6 grade in the bench. 22 reps isn't too bad because of his arm length, 33.5-inch arms. But when Vita Vea was putting up, I think it was 37. So there's definitely comparisons, but I think for Grant, there's a reason why Vea went top 10. Grant maybe seen a bit low because Vea was doing it at that weight and he was 100% all the time. Grant is maybe, yes, sometimes he has reps where he's 80%.
And there's the question about what you do without having Mason Graham by your side.
That's fair. But
that's the other one. But I think Grant's going to be fine. Yeah. But Vita Vea plays 600-700 snaps a year. Kenneth Grant's never played more than 500. That's just a conditioning aspect. Yeah. So again, because I believe, if I remember rightly, Vea dropped a little bit of weight and he's put it back on over the years as he's the more you condition to the NFL, you can put your weight
Yeah,
back on as you
it's
go along.
because
You drop first, you build your muscle mass, you build it back up again, and that's what Vea did. So again, I would recommend that for him. Just drop a little, not even much. 320 is still heavy, and just put it back on as you go along, and you get used to the rigor of an NFL season. Because again, yeah, if you're picking 20, you kind of want someone who can do the full workload. You ain't picking a rotation guy. You ain't picking someone who's gassed. And I'm not saying he is. You just got to adjust him to the conditioning of the NFL and put his weight back on. He'll be fine.
I just find it funny that at 340 pounds, he's a speed to power guy. It's funny shit, man. Like watching him play, he's such a fish out of water in a lot of ways because he just shouldn't be able to play like that, and that's why how much he benched doesn't worry me, because we can't show speed to power on a bench, but it's what he's good at.
True. But so I've looked it up. I underestimated Vita Vea. It was 41 reps on the bench with shorter arms.
Fair.
That's mad. That's mad. Because I had to look it up. I was like, I suppose it was more. Yeah, 41. Fucking hell.
Right, Ash, time to go to your last guy.
Oh, we've heard about so many good defensive tackles. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to lower the mood a bit, and that's with perhaps it's the lowest ranked guy we've got on the board, so maybe it's not a surprise. But it's Zeek Biggers, the Georgia Tech nose tackle. He is 6'5", 321 pounds, and he's a senior. There is no age on record for him. I couldn't find the age anywhere. It's just one of them weird ones. He spent all his career at Georgia Tech. He has a RAS of 8.19, so he was hurt particularly by the agility scores. This past season, he's had 65 flats defensive grade, 63.9 run defense, 29.9 tackle grade, 60.5 pass rush, 65.5 coverage, but a 90 special teams grade. He's played 414 defensive snaps this past season, 177 run defense, 236 pass rush, and 1 coverage. 42 of those reps came in the A gap, 369 in the B gap, and then 1 over the tackle. He had 17 solo tackles and a further 6 this past season, but he missed another 8, so that's a 25.8% missed tackle rate. He had 11 run stops, 6 pressures, which were 1 hit and 5 hurries, and 3 batted passes. He did not concede a penalty this season, either on defense or on special teams. And on special teams, he played those 56 snaps and got no tackles. And there might be a bit of a theme here because I watched his game against Miami this year, where he got a 66.6 defensive grade, 68.3 run defense, and 60.1 pass rush. He only played 37 snaps. 15 of these were in run defense, and the other 22 was pass rusher. He had no pressures, no tackles, either solo, missed, or assisted. No run stops, but he did bat 1 pass at the line. In run defense, he can occupy a blocker, which allows you to scheme up things for other people, particularly the linebackers in this game. They were able to sort of come in on blitzes and make the tackle. But that's all he really does. As for pass rush, the same, just like there was consistently, he was usually lined up either against the center or the left guard. He just consistently let the offensive lineman get his hands on him, and it just instantly lost him the rep. Like he would just try, just has no plan to disengage. If the guard just got their hands on him, that was it. His pat down was good, managed to get his hand up in the air and bat it down, but all he's really good for is just occupying a bit of space or the person he's facing. Not much else from that, which is why my comparison for him, and I did warn Matt that this would be a weird comparison. He is the lamp from the sexy lamp test, which is the famous thing to do with women in films, where if you replaced a female character in a film with a sexy lamp, would it change anything in the film's plot? If you replaced Biggers with a lamp, it would not change anything for Georgia Tech at all. Like, case in the point in that, his game against FSU, sub 50 grade. So he can't even do well against us. Like, his fit for us would be as a replacement for the blocking dummy if it gets broken. So if let's say Frank Ragnow actually breaks it in his blocking, he can kind of step in and be a replacement for that for a bit while they go and fix it in the backyard. He's just ineffectual, unfortunately. So my comparison for him in the pros is for Darian Mathis, who someone's kind of seen a bit more highly rated in his draft class, but it's just been ineffectual since he's entered the league. That's Zeek for me. So he's currently the 29th rated defensive tackle and the 246th overall prospect on mock draft database, which puts him as a late 7th rounder. I'd have him even lower than that as a UDFA talent at best. You can stick him in and he can occupy some space. You can build your like blitz patterns and your stunts around that, but that's about it. Like, if we picked him, I'd be very concerned. And given that we've technically 3 deep at nose tackle already with Reader, with Roy Lopez, and with Broderick, I'd be very surprised if we signed him as UDFA. So, obviously, have our grading scale of out of 100. I graded him at a 5, which is, I think, the lowest score it's pretty much ever been given. I was just so disappointed. I picked him because I was like, oh, Georgia Tech, like their defensive line was pretty good this season, did some stuff against us. Let's have a look. I could have done a better job at defensive tackle. I'm half his size. It was disappointing, to say the least.
And have you seen any of him?
There's one defining stat he has in his favor. He is undefeated against Florida State in Ireland, so good on him. No, unfortunately, my draft knowledge does not extend as far. I've not really had any passing interest in Georgia Tech or any of their players, so that is a grey area for me.
Okie dokie, that's fair enough. In which case, as I have nothing to add, I will move it on to our last guy overall, and then we're going to talk about the class at large. And the last guy we have is T.J. Sanders from South Carolina. He is a redshirt junior, 6'0", 284 pounds at the combine, although his playing weight was probably more... RAS has him heavier than that at 297. I'm pretty sure he was 284 at the combine, so maybe that's Pro Day? Pro Day's happened yet? I'm totally out of the loop. No, I have no idea where that's come from then. He did shed quite a bit of weight, I think, but his playing weight is somewhere around 300 pounds. 9.28 RAS score with great explosion grade, great speed, with a 4.98 on the 40-yard dash, a 1.67 10-yard split, so very explosive. Good broad and vert as well. He's a 4-year South Carolina player, but redshirted in the first year, playing only 7 snaps. Never played more than 500 snaps in a season, so this is a guy that has some tread left on the tyres, only a total of 1,187 defensive snaps in his career, but had a breakout couple of years as a starter for South Carolina in the last 2. 72.5 grade last year, 82.4 this year. 33 pressures in this season, 50 tackles, 29 of which solo, 7 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, and a pass defended. Watched the game for him against Texas A&M. He's a high upside defensive tackle. He's probably a 3 to 5 technique. He's a penetrating one gap defender only. He is not a 2-gap defender, and I'm not sure he ever will be. It's not his game, and you're taking something away from him if you try and ask him to do that. So, because he is not scheme versatile in that way, he's only going to be for some teams. Now, most actually prefer a penetrating style, so he's not taking too much out of there. But we would have hated this guy about 4 years ago, before this regime came in. Excellent explosion off the snap, can get upfield quickly, not unlike Derrick Harmon in that respect. Unlike Harmon, Sanders has excellent lateral agility. When he shoots gaps, it's often because that little half step to the side happens in a flash and he can turn the corner really, really well. Those 3 combs, only 7.7, which really surprised me because I think he moves much better than that on tape. Even though, as someone of his weight, that's still a pretty good time. I was expecting a bit closer to kind of 7.5-ish. Because he's quick off the ball, and because he's also very explosive laterally, there's multiple ways he can win horizontally and vertically. He's also a good hand fighter, which means that he times his attacks well to create early wins. So the combination of being explosive with good timing with his hands means he's going to give people some trouble without any development at the next level. Like Harmon, when he doesn't win straight off the snap, he's got poor pad level. So he needs to win straight away. If he doesn't, he's going to get dominated a little bit. And against the run, his anchor's not fantastic, especially against pulling linemen, especially against double teams. So if he was on early downs, he'd be someone I'd target versus the run. I would be looking to try and hammer where he was until he can sort his technique out a little bit. It's just too high. The thing is, when he does get it right, he shows really impressive power for someone of his size, so it's quite a frustrating thing to watch on tape, where he shows he can do it, but more often than not, he's not. And, you know, when I say that, it's like 40% of the time it's good and 60% of the time it's bad against the run. So it's not like he's a total liability, but flip that the other way around and we have a conversation about whether you can live there. But right now, it's hard because I would kind of want to say that he's a kind of pass rush, NASCAR package interior guy. That's not a lot of demand for that. You know, how often do you get into the third and long situations, and what percentage of the snaps is that? That's maybe 15 to 20% of the snaps you're seeing here. So there's development there he needs to do to get onto the field. But the thing is, someone with the ability to pass rush like he can is going to attract a lot of people. There will be GMs who go, we can fix that. Because we know he can do it because we've seen it. So it's just about getting him to be more consistent. He's got high motor and he doesn't give up on plays. Even when he loses, he's not being driven back 10 yards on a play. You know, like he's not giving up on these things. You know, he cares. He deeply, deeply cares. But for someone who can lose in this way, for someone who's relying on his pass rush, he doesn't have counters as far as I can see. He does see himself tied up when he doesn't win straight away. His football IQ is not fantastic. He will... You know when an offensive line deliberately leaves a gap free because they're not running it that way? When he sees a gap, he'll shoot it. When he should bail on attacking that gap and maybe try and divert to cut things off to the side, he'll see gap, hit gap. And it's just a bit simple in a negative way. He needs to see what's happening in front of him and react to it. And I struggle with it a bit because the talent is there. It really is. But can you fix that? I'm not sure you can fix that. Which makes the evaluation very tough. You know, this is a guy I'm not starting day one. But the tools are there. So I'm giving him a mid-second round pick, and it's not a comp for him. But the player that came to mind when I watched him was Levi. Penetrating guy that projects around the 3-tech area, who I didn't think was exceptional at, like, rundowns, who has a similar sort of frame. I think at 6'3", 285, 290, Levi's maybe slightly shorter and slightly heavier, or very similar. In terms of technique, I think there's similar things to work on there. Obviously, Levi's just gotten paid a little bit, and there's a lot of positives about what he might do. So if that, not comp, that thought is accurate, then there's definitely ways in which you can, you know, train this guy. So I am positive about what he might do in the next level, but I'm guarded. The floor is low, the ceiling is high if he works it out. And I can tell that my voice is going, so I'm going to turn it over to one of you guys. Ant, have you seen much from TJ Sanders?
You've seen a fair bit. I mean, we've watched the South Carolina defense a lot this year. Like that team's really turned a corner, and it's a ton of these players are coming to the draft. And for me, the South Carolina prospects, they're where the potential pots of gold are, maybe with some of these guys. Because you look back in previous years, they've not been very good. The defense has struggled, but then this year, especially for the two defensive tackles, because you've got Tonka, who's on that interior as well, who's in this draft, who quite a lot like as well. Like they've not had much help from the rest of their line, specifically from the edge position. Then you come into this year, so Kyle Kennard transfers in. They've got that superstar true freshman. Is it Dylan Stewart, who's going to be the next big thing out of there? He's huge. You have two very good edge rushers who've come in, and it's allowed them to be a bit more free and to play their game better. It's no mistake that they've both done better this year. And the defense as a whole has benefited from this. Like Eamon Warray's had one of his best years. They transferred in Demetrius Knight. You've got O'Donnell Fortune, the corner who's come in. He's just had his best year. And these guys, look, a lot of them have been in college 4 or 5 years, and you look at your grades and you think they're just average, 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 average. But then you see this year and how it's all come together, and they've all collectively had much better seasons. And you look and you think, maybe there's a lot more to these guys, especially when you look at Tonka and you look at TJ on the D tackles. They project as been very average during their careers at South Carolina. But when you take into account what they've had to deal with there, the situation they've been in, and you look at how they've grown this year, now that they've been given a fighting chance with it, and you're like, well, actually, there is something to these guys. Probably battle hardened them a little bit, that there potentially is room for growth here with them. And it's been a fantastic defense this year, from back to front. All of these guys have contributed to what has been one of the best teams in some time. So I look at him especially. I mean, I prefer Tonka as a project and what you can do with him. I think athletically he's got a little bit more as well, but he's not done it as much over his collegiate career. But I think either one of them is worth a gamble of bringing them in, because I think they've got a lot of upside to them. I think a lot of these South Carolina prospects have upside to them. Even O'Donnell Fortune, he's another I'd like to see here potentially as well. Despite him having an average career, I think he's much better than he's been allowed to be. So yeah, they're a very intriguing lot. This South Carolina lot are, and but I think they're better than what their final college stat lines say they are.
Ash?
Yeah. I was interested about the comparison to Levi, so I've quickly done the Vraz comparison, and Sanders is better in pretty much every category. So it's bigger hands, bigger arms, is an inch taller, 10 pounds heavier roughly, didn't put up the bench, but 40-yard dash was okay, second slower, but well, it's not second, 10th second slower, but his 20-yard split and his 10-yard split were faster, better vertical, better broad jump, did the shuttle, did the free cone that Levi didn't. Yeah, I can see it. It's just, I think Levi had the production coming out that Sanders really hasn't had. And obviously, Levi also had the injury. So, yes, second round seems to be the perfect place for him. He doesn't seem to have that elite trait that I keep banging on about, that you need to be a true first round grade. You need to have something elite to hang your hat off. Sanders doesn't really have that. But you look around the league, there's a load of teams that, in the second, if he's there, they'd happily take him. So even teams that are famous for the defensive lines, like the 49ers, right now, their defensive tackle room isn't exactly great. You've got the Giants, who, okay, they've got Sexy Dexy, but other than that, not a lot. He's someone that a team could very much fall in love with because, you've got the chance with him being a free tech, with this linear agility, with plus arm length, with the explosive first step and the twitch for his size, that they're like, if we could just coach him up, if we could get him around some good talent, like he's kind of got this year in South Carolina, maybe we could get what sort of the projection is starting to come from with Sanders. But he's just not a first. There's better players on the board potentially at that position when teams are picking. So only team can really maybe see doing it is the Eagles, because again, they're the kind of team that could take him and instantly turn him into a really, really good defensive tackle.
All right, that is everyone that we've looked at. Looking at the other potential first rounders, there are 3 at a stretch that we haven't mentioned, being Mason Graham, Tyler Williams, and Alfred Collins. Starting with Mason Graham, we've alluded to him already. Should be a top 5 pick. I know, Ant, you've mentioned him before and waxed lyrical about him, but just a little word on Mason Graham.
Mason Graham is freakishly good. I mean, he's just dominated from day one since he went to Michigan, and he got into the team as a freshman. Like, you think they've had guys like Marzi Smith, Chris Jenkins come out of there, guys who've been picked high in drafts, obviously came in the same recruiting class as Kenneth Grant. So it's not exactly been a room shorn of competition to get in, and he sort of put himself in from day one. But what he is and what sets him apart from Grant is his disruptive ability in the pocket to get to the quarterback as well. It's against the run, it's against the pass. If there's a person out there who's going to tell me of one offensive lineman who's dominated him in his college career, I'll show you a liar. I just genuinely mean that. Like, there's no one who's been able to deal with him and what he brings to the table. And all the rash truthers can go kiss my grits because of his arm size. People are going, oh no, he shouldn't be a top 5 pick because of that. Miss me. The dude's like a 4-time wrestling champion from high school, and like his entire career, he's a wrestler. So the short arms mean nothing because he gets the leverage over you. He's that quick. He's as quick as Grant on the get off. Obviously, Grant has the heavier poundage behind him, but the fact that he'll hit you first and he will dictate the play and what happens with it, you can't win against him when he's on top of you. And that's what he is. He just collapses pockets for a living. And he will be the next great defensive tackle in this league. I've no doubt about it. When you can play as good as you can in both facets of the game. And again, you talk about having snaps and the most amount of play in the world. I mean, he himself is only at like 1,300. So again, his room for growth is great as well. There's not many weaknesses to his game. It's just people attacking his arm size and all the all the analytics nerds going after him that way. I mean, apart from that, there's nothing. You're going to put him at the 3 technique, and you're going to get someone who's going to change games for you. That's what he is. He's just a complete package already, and he's only going to get better. And he should, in this draft, go before the quarterbacks. There's only Abdul Carter who's got a claim to being a better player in this draft than him. That's it. That's where the list ends. That's how good he is.
What do you think, Ash?
Michigan defensive lineman who's very athletic but has short arms. Who does that sound like?
Almost like we have one of them, maybe.
Exactly. Though, prepare to call me a liar because I found an offensive lineman who did well against him. Meet Osmar Velez, the Fresno State left guard, who held him to a 58.4 grade this past season. I am a liar. But yeah, Graham, he will not fall past 6. He should not. Okay, Campbell's going to be number 1 overall. That's pretty much written in stars now. 2, 3, probably either Abdul Carter and Sanders, but then Patriots, Jags, Raiders. If they let him fall to 7 and let Aaron Glenn get him next to Quinn Williams, they are stupid. They should not. That's how good he is. Like, we're talking about a defensive tackle who is being considered in the top 7. When's the last time we could really say that? Derrick Brown with the Panthers. Obviously, that was not a good draft class for us, but we move. Yeah, he's just that good. Deserved.
Yeah, I have him as a solid top 5 pick. He has the get off of some of the guys that we've discussed here, but he's got all of the pass rush moves to boot. The only negative I had from him is that sometimes, and it's probably a point where his coaches have told him to do it, he focused a bit too much on the pass rush sometimes and lost gap integrity, allowed quarterbacks to kind of move into the gap that he's vacated. I mean, it's a problem we've had for donkey's years. defensive linemen will get criticised if they don't go and try and finish the play, and they'll get criticised if they don't maintain gap integrity either to try and go upfield. So it's one of those where you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Really, it's a really harsh one to kind of beat him with. But I watched the Illinois game of his, and he's just wicked. He really is, and he does look weird. I know that aesthetics isn't really a part of this. I said in my notes he's a prototypical DT of this era because there's something about liking linemen of his kind of size and weight and the way that he can play. But last year in the cycle where people said about Brock Bowers that he just looks weird on tape. Mason Graham looks weird. And I think that's going to put people off. But it's completely unjustified. Like, his body type is strange. But it works for him, so who cares? The other two guys I mentioned, just to touch on briefly, Tyler Williams, Alfred Collins. Any thoughts on either of them from you two?
Shouldn't be touching day one. Either of them.
No,
day
they
two
shouldn't.
people.
No, they shouldn't. Agreed. See, Tyler Williams, again, he's played on that Ohio State defensive line for the last couple of years. 10 of the starters on the 11 of that team this year were year 4s and year 5s. The other 3 on that defensive line are all getting drafted. It's what is he without that round him? And he is quite a tweener. They played him all the way from nose tech to 5 tech and in between, and he's a tweener. There's no doubt in his skills and potential, but he has been inconsistent as a pass rusher. I think there was that he said his sacks have gone down every year since his freshman year. Like, he was really good freshman, then it's just sort of regressed. So it's just inconsistent. I wouldn't touch him just because, again, of who he's played with and how dominant that line has been, and like how's he gonna do it when he flies on his own. But I hold that point for all of those Ohio State guys. Like, call me a hypocrite and say Nolen's played on a line, but Nolen's quite clearly the star on that line, and he is treated as such. He is double team, triple team. He's got all that sort of stuff there. Tyleek doesn't get that sort of attention on what is a very good line. So I personally wouldn't take him there, and I wouldn't take Collins in the first either. I'd rate him a little bit more than Tyleek on his own individual merits. I think he's got a bit of a better build. I think he's got a bit of a better chance of making it as a top pick, but certainly none of them are going to touch round 1. If they do, then someone's making questionable choices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Just you can't. Yeah, because the thing with Collins is you can't say the same. Like, I know he's had a sort of breakout year this year, jumping from a 79.9 grade last season to 87.2. But you just can't say that because I can't think of another Texas defensive lineman this year. I know you usually have a couple of guys in the linebacker room, especially as well. Obviously, the guy the Packers took last year, I think it was, over Sean, but he's a bit better and got a bit more of a pass rush upside, slightly better pass rush win rate, slightly better pass rush grade, and done it on the bigger stage as well, obviously being at Texas. So played against them in the postseason, played against some really good running games like ASU. Obviously had a breakout game against Arkansas, 91.2 grade. It's got a bit more of a high, I think Collins does. But yeah, neither should be touched in the first round unless something major happens, unfortunately.
See, the big thing that he stands out differently is that he's actually flourished after they've lost the talent. Yeah. Like, you think who they've lost on that defensive line. Like, you had Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat last year. Sweat won the Outland Award last year. And you're like, oh, okay, you're going to do well in that group there. But they've left and he's flourished. So he's done it without the talent. They've had to blood new guys in on that line, which is why I put him above Tyleek, because Tyleek's had that help round him. Whereas he was in a room that lost all its talent last year and he's flourished in that. He's had a lot asked of him. I think they had another one drafted the year before that as well. They've gone through a run of D tackles, so that was an empty room this year.
All right. Any other business you guys want to bring to the table before we sign off?
Dare I bring up the other big Raz warrior who's leapt up boards, who shouldn't have done?
Go on then.
The Kentucky defensive lineman.
Don't.
Is that Dion Walker, per chance?
That is Dion Walker, yeah.
Well, you brought him up, so well done. We heard the groan from Ant.
Fine. Exactly. The other one I'd probably say look like in terms of the lines, probably look at is the Tennessee one, Omar Norman lot. Very much a projection, but especially where it's currently say it's a PFF hammer of 61st. But if you want someone that, we'll take a bit of time to bed in behind Aleem, we can rotate him in, but just has that upside to be a great partner with him. There's someone, and again, sort of stands out. I know he's obviously got James Pierce Jr. playing on the edge with him, but someone's really stood out to me, at least in my brief watching of him.
A few other day 3 ones knocking round you could potentially take a look at. Obviously, you've got JJ Pegues in there as well, who's Walter Nolen's running mate at Ole Miss. He's certainly worth a look. The other one who potentially would have a tiny little bit of a look at would be Junior Tafuna out of Utah. He's had injury issues, but he's much better than his projection's going to be. He's just been sort of held back by other things. But if he ended up here as a development project, I wouldn't mind. He is violent. Like, you want violent DTs, he's as violent as they come. And again, he comes from a system I trust with their defensive players. So I would potentially give Junior Tafuna a go there as well. Put him alongside Cam for day 3.
He's a former linebacker as well. I'm just looking him up on PFF.
Yeah, he is. Whoa. They moved him. I think they realized that because they blitzed him a lot, I think, and then they realized, oh, actually, this guy can get to the quarterback pretty good, and he's got the build for it. And he's quite a big linebacker. So I think they naturally moved him in. His playing weight's quite big now. I think he's at like 3.
He's gone from 225 in his recruiting days to more than 308.
Yeah,
is what he's listed on PFF.
He got bigger and bigger, and because they had that insane linebacker class a couple of years when he arrived. Obviously Lloyd, Devin Lloyd, and that group. So getting into that group at the time was pretty much impossible. So they moved him they put him some weight on him and moved him to DT. But you potentially do a lot with him as well, sort of a hybridy guy.
All right, we all done?
I think so.
That's your defensive tackle class for 2025. The name of the show alludes to the fact that it is stacked. Well, I think at the top there's a heck of a lot of names you can point to which are going to go high. I think there could be as many as, 12 or 13 in the first 2 days, potentially. If the class is liked, maybe that's slightly high. Maybe it's 10 to 11, but still, that's a good proportion of the entire class.
They didn't really go through some of the major nose tackles. Stackhouse didn't get mentioned. Nazir Stackhouse is a very good nose tackle, and then who's the other? The Georgia nose tackles in this year as well. I keep forgetting his name, but potentially a lot of good in this draft. So certainly between all 3 days, you've got good options at all 3 days, which has not been the case with ETs the last few years. They've been very lacking towards the top tier.
All right, our next show is the college football podcast, Are You Better Than a Mock Draft Machine, which will be happening midweek, so do check us out for that. Otherwise, offensive line is going to be the next class we're looking at this time next week, Monday, March 31st. You know where to find us on our socials. We're All the Lines UK, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And the group for worldwide fans on Facebook is Detroit Lions Fans UK, One Pride Worldwide. A little birdie told me that we may be represented in Green Bay for the draft. Let's see if that actually happens. But that could be pretty cool. We could be getting some words of wisdom from the reigning international fan of the year, potentially. So Hope you have a good week. We'll see you later on in the week for the college show. But for now, just remains for me to thank. Sorry?
And very quickly, don't forget to check out the draft videos. We've got draft videos up. There's prospect videos up. Go take a look at them.
Yeah.
Donovan a zero arco up the other day. So go and have a check.
Watched that this morning on the treadmill at the gym.
Yeah, do go and check out some more coming as well, I believe. So yeah, thanks to Amp for cracking on with those because we've been wanting to do them for a long time and they've hit the spot. So please do go and watch them and there'll be more coming. But yeah, website, royallionsuk.com. You know where to find us. Appreciate you all. We'll see you later on this week. But for now, let's go Lions One Pride.
One Pride.
Oh, Bride.
Recording stopped.